Hello and welcome to the Alien Scientist channel, your number one source for news in the UFO science community. Today, we're going to be talking about the new released classified report that was given to Congress last year in June of 2021. Now, this was written by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, and it was distributed to members of Congress last year in order to educate and inform Congress supposedly about what DARPA, NASA, the FBI, DIA, NRO, that's the National Reconnaissance Office, all these intelligence and armed services committees basically work together to file this report for the National Intelligence Council to educate our Congress on exactly what's going on with this UAP phenomena. Basically, the Pentagon needs more money because there's new threats, and we're not going to talk about any of the technologies that we've been developing, or that, we're just going to talk about aliens, right? We're not going to talk about the fact that these are real physical craft with advanced technological capabilities. Oh, there's a little bit about this. Handful of you appear advanced technology. So advanced technology, yes, certainly. Half this report's redacted. There's really not much in this release that we didn't already know. There's some interesting things that people have pointed out, like, why did they redact this whole section here? That one of the biggest redacted sections was this whole section on the shape of UFOs. And then we currently lack data to determine any UAP are part of a foreign collection program or indicative of a major technological advancement by a potential adversary. So they currently lack data to prove this. Well, we've been talking about a lot of these technologies, and the science surrounding them is not so classified if you know what to look for. And I pointed out that a lot of the research that I've found were done by Russian and Chinese scientists. And we've covered that in past episodes on this program, and I can dig into a couple key cases and probably mention them if I have some time. I don't have anything prepared right now for that, but yeah, I think they're missing a lot of key factors in this intelligence analysis, and I think that more research needs to be done into the foreign side of this, because if I could have figured this out, just being into this field for the past 15 years and doing research, and learn what I learned about the metamaterials research and polariton condensates and surface plasmon polaritons, and the research being done by Chinese and Russian scientists into polariton condensate materials for room temperature superconductors, and a whole host of other technologies related to these skin coatings that are able to trap and collect massive amounts of light energy in this metamaterial layer of a dielectric between two mirrors, essentially, is the type of material that they want to create. And sometimes they create a couple layers of this of varying thicknesses to essentially create what are called layered photonic band gap materials. And I talked about these 15 years ago because this is stuff that I heard from what they were researching based on these pieces of re-examined metal from UFOs, and trying to reinterpret and understand the physics. This is the whole part about the shape of them that was redacted. So there was a lot of information about the shapes of these UFOs or UAPs that they're trying to relabel everything UAP, UFOs. I call it UFOs. Yeah, we paid, our taxes paid for this stuff, and we can't even, we can't even read it, dude. It's crazy. What's up, B Baker? What's up, Stephen Drysdale? Thank you, guys. Anonymous Andy and MR, and yeah, Anthony, everyone else in the chat, and welcome everyone else coming in. We're talking about this classified ODNI report. So the Office of the Director of National Intelligence put this together with the cooperation of a number of agencies, and it's supposed to inform our members of Congress and bring them up to date on everything they need to know about UFOs and UAP. But what's really missing from this report is a comprehensive breakdown of some of the technologies that can be used to fake UAP encounters. Because it's also a tactic that's being used adversarially against, our enemies. And I'm sure because it's a number of encounters have happened where, pilots or ships have gotten too close to the U.S. and gotten in and came into contact with these defense systems, which are set up to mess with, things that come into the airspace. Including Project Palladium and Project Nemesis, which is something that, I don't know. I've created a whole series of reports, and I'm in the process of compiling a whole nother one where I'm digging deeper into this whole nitinol business and the claims of a certain Colonel Corso, who wrote a book, in 1997, claiming that a lot of these technologies were developed after Roswell through technologies that were garnered or taken from Roswell. And I don't know about all of these, but the most interesting, I've debunked a lot of these, the transistor being the main one. We go through the whole history of solid state physics, going back to Walter Schottky and PNP doped silicon and stuff like that. Sorry. But fiber optics and the nitinol wire issue is the number one most interesting on the list. And I've been digging a lot into this whole report. I'd originally seen the report and just was like, oh, this is just a benign report. My skeptical side was just like, this is just, why wouldn't they be looking into titanium base alloys? It was a metallurgy, contractor from the military. They were making tank armor, and they were looking for new aircraft materials and new lightweight materials to make aircraft out of. So totally, why wouldn't, Battelle, this metallurgy contractor, be, doing progress reports for, military advancement at the time, trying to look into new materials and new alloys to build aircraft out of. But looking back over this report, actually we had uploaded this and a bunch of other stuff to the database, and this was one of the ones that disappeared off the database. I had progress report number 1 and 2. The first progress report isn't nearly as interesting as the second, but that second progress report from Battelle, which I think I have it linked in the description below, this Pentacle Memorandum, okay? This Pentacle Memorandum, I talked about it this morning, and I want to mention it again real quick because it's super, super important. No one's done the research to really track down who these scientists were on the Pentacle Memorandum. It's one of the most important documents, in my opinion, in the UFO history, in the literature. And no one's really done a thorough literature check and a curriculum vitae on all these guys, all the people on this list. And this should be looked into and declassified. This is something that really needs to be dug into from the scientific community and the UFO community if we want answers going, because we need to go back. We don't need to just listen to, Lou Elizondo and this path forward, and Dr. Hal Puthoff's got some really good stuff too about the path forward, because so we do need to listen to them about the path forward. I'm not saying don't listen to these guys. This is an interesting, what's going on right now, and I just want to hear what people think out there in the audience too. I want to. There's a poll going on Twitter, and I want people to go on there and answer it. And I want people to share this. But do you think Lou Elizondo and TTSA are CIA narrative, taking control of the UFO narrative? Type 1 for yes, 2 for no. If you 2 is, you don't think that you think that they're honestly trying to bring disclosure out. 1 is they're, trying to kind of hide or give a CIA narrative, a limited hangout form of disclosure. And there's a poll going on, and I forget how it was going on Twitter, but I just, wanted to, point out like that, I'm looking into some of this stuff that Hal Puthoff has put out, and it's got some of this information in it, on and all these things are legit, like he talks about the high energy laser weapons, these terahertz lasers and other things. I don't think he really mentions too much about the polariton lasers and stuff like that. But quantum computing and utilizing organic molecules and automation technology, negative mass propulsion. This whole idea of you can actually use polariton condensate to create negative mass. There's a whole article on that. Cognitive limits on simultaneous control of multiple unmanned spacecraft, quantum tomography of negative energy states in the vacuum. We go into a lot of these topics and try to dig into, science papers and the literature behind a lot of this stuff. And this is the less, I don't know, man. It's like, is there a conspiracy to like cover this up? Because it's like, why isn't this front and center? Why isn't Hal Puthoff educating Lou Elizondo on all this stuff, and Lou talking about this more and promoting this more? This is TTSA's strong arm, if they have anything at all. And they put Tom DeLonge forward on Joe Rogan to talk about that terahertz piece of metal from the UFO, and he just, I don't know, he just hacked it to pieces. It was like you think about scientists, how carefully they are to write their papers and publish their data and publish their papers in a scientific journal, because they want absolutely, it's a historical record, and they want everything to be like exact and perfect, and there not to be any errors, and how, because it's there, and I've seen them even talk about this and fall back, and since then I don't know if they've learned kind of a lesson from that or what, but it's like they've almost sat back and said, oh, we need Gary Nolan is the one who said this, more, he's just like, we need to be very reserved about our analysis of these objects, and be skeptical and open-minded on what we're examining, if this is really indeed part of an advanced alien technology. It could be so advanced that we have no idea how it works. And he points out the whole issue of why that he examined this, and as isotope ratios, which aren't really normal on Earth, that the isotopes are weird, and but he doesn't make the connections to some of this other stuff, which is spintronics, and fact that different isotopes, when you add that extra neutron to the nucleus of the atom, it makes it slightly heavier, which changes that Larmor precession, or that spin relaxation frequency, and that changes the electromagnetic and physical properties of the atom. So if you're dealing with like sensitive electronics, the future of electronics could be photonics, which just trap light and are experts in what are called excitons, exciton physics. That's all about how lasers work and stuff. If you really want to look into it, this whole idea of these electron holes and this whole idea of Dirac holes is more about, if you really want to get into the quantum physics of theory on how the surface of these craft might work. So the Dirac hole theory and Dirac cones on the surface of these femtoelectronic spin devices, which are built on the atomic scale, on the atomic level. And these types of dilute magnetic semiconductors are part of particular interest in the field of quantum computing. Yeah, why do you think? Because they're alien fucking quantum computers. We've known this probably since the 1950s when we first found this stuff. We couldn't figure out what it was. I'm going to talk about all this in the Invisible College in my report. Talk about all the military people that said they handled this debris that came from Roswell. A metal like fabric that was indestructible. It would wear out, carbide drill bits. It would just burn the tips out when they tried to cut through it. Even, with cutting oil and everything, they were not able to cut it on. It would just fold and bend and take the shape of whatever which way you pushed it, and Lord knows how the heck what force ripped it apart in the first place. But essentially, what I think about this memory foil, is, and this whole idea of this. So they had this progress report that Wright Patterson the Air Force issued to the metallurgists at Battelle in 1949, which is like 2 years after Roswell. And this is so weird. There's a hair in my mouth. Sorry. The anicolytum. So they basically dissolved this stuff in chlorine carbon tetrachloride, and then measured the off gases to tell what was in this stuff, because there was no other way to really disintegrate or destroy it. And then they had this progress report that they did. And as I read over the progress report, right, a couple things struck me. Is that there's a number of alloy tables and property tables so they tried titanium silver alloy, and they tried titanium zirconium alloy, and they tried titanium, everything that titanium would alloy with. They tried it with a bunch of other metals, and anything that it would alloy with, they did a whole alloy sheet table right on it. But the biggest one by far, it dwarfs the other two. It's 3 times the size of the other two. It was the diagram for nickel titanium. So the nickel alloys, they were clearly in this report looking for nickel titanium alloys, and they just tried these other alloys. Why not? Because why not? For the fuck's sake of it, I guess. And it shows right here in this report, for the footnotes for table 18, that they were specifically looking for the ductility of the metal, and they were doing these tests to test for ductility. So what is ductility? So the definition exactly of ductility, I looked this up earlier, is the property of solid bodies, particularly metals, which renders them capable of being extended by drawing with correlative diminution of their thickness or diameter without any actual fracture or separation of parts. Flexibility, adjustability, ready compliance. And the third definition is the property of a metal which allows it to be drawn into wires or filaments. Okay. So its ability to deform plastically without breaking, basically what they were looking for. So they had some type of material which could deform without breaking. And they were trying to figure out why and how that material worked. So it's super interesting. You got to read between the lines on this report that we do have. And then you got to wonder, where are these other scientists? What other reports did they write? And what other research were they involved in that's still classified? And how do we go about getting that information? And so, like next week, we're going to be on a finding mission. We're going to do some hard research into these names to figure out who these scientists were. I'm super interested in that and digging into that. I think that the scientific research end of this is the best way to go to get answers, and going back to these science reports and really trying to read between the lines on them. Oh, here we got 6 data points that they did for the silver, and a table half the size, and then titanium beryllium alloys, same thing. Yeah, we did a couple tests to look for some stuff, but the titanium nickel alloys, they were clearly looking for titanium nickel, and they had that phase diagram which showed that gap right in the range where nitinol appears. Right in this beta range, where it's like 7.0%, like right around that range is where the nitinol, that percentage is where the nitinol forms in that phase. So interesting. I wonder if you can take nitinol, weave it into a fabric, and then it and mix the right way, if it won't create this type of material. But would be cool. Oh, we had I had crypto alchemist Bernard jump on here. I don't know what happened to him, and you're welcome to come back. Okay, he's just watching from his phone. He's going to be back at his house in like 10 minutes, so he'll be joining us shortly. Advocates for UFO disclosure. Sweet. If you've been following the WEF bulletin and statement made by political members of the global economy. Okay, so back to this classified UFO report that they gave Congress. It's not really diving into the history of UFOs. It's not diving into this stuff. It's not diving in. It's not diving into NASA leak Marabou directed energy weapon stuff, which uses supercavitation to literally open up the air in front of these missiles. For all their hypersonic missiles and stuff, and some of these hypersonic drones and other craft, which can explain these breakneck speeds and changes of direction and stuff if they're UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles. And yeah, it's definitely, there's a huge difference between Lou and Bob Lazar, right? So Bob Lazar, if we go back to, if we really want to dig into Bob Lazar, you can go back to John Lear on the record and watch these old interviews. This is the one in particular from 8 News Las Vegas Now with George Knapp, where he interviewed John Lear back in the day, and this was before Bob Lazar. So Bob Lazar saw this, obviously must have seen this guy getting all this attention on TV, and that's right when Bob Lazar met John Lear, and then a couple weeks later is when Bob allegedly got recruited to go work at it for EG&G out at Area 51. And so it almost looks like they hired Bob as disinformation. If he really did work out there, then this John Lear connection can't be overlooked. Then they hired him as disinformation, because he basically confirmed Lear's story. Because Lear went on the record with George Knapp about a year before, and said that they had a base out there with a hangar with 11 hangars with 11 of these recovered or captured alien discs. And then Bob went out there and said that he saw this hangar, but it was 9 discs. It wasn't 11 anymore. It was 9 of them. So it's the same idea, same information. Hey, Bernard, welcome. The element 115 stuff, again, comes from the May 1989 issue of Scientific American magazine. And you look that up, you can find out in Scientific American that they published all the stuff, including the isotope that Bob gave for what the element 115 was all published in the May 1989 issue of Scientific American. And any researcher that doesn't want to pay the $7 to buy the article, you can buy the whole issue for $8 digitally and get it, or I can give you a copy if you really can't afford that and want access to see it. I can give you screenshots of that particular article out of it. I'm not gonna cut their throat and sell the magazine. Yeah, we're using StreamYard right now to stream. If you guys want to jump on, here's the link, and I'd love to hear some other people's questions, comments, other stuff. But one of the interesting things I found too in the Bob Lazar thing recently was that, oh God, I have to find this now. Dan had sent this to me, and it was the it was, let me go back here and find this. Oh, so we found, so another thing I want to talk about, right, is Dan had sent me this too. And we went and did some digging into this, and I'm still trying to get the property at. We're gonna get, it's in Ojai, California, and we want to get the property records for who actually bought the house, because according to my sources, it was Jeremy's mother who bought the house and not him. That is, his parents got the money. So we already knew that Jeremy's not a real UFO researcher, that he came from a trust fund baby family that gave him a bunch of money to become a filmmaker so he could make crappy documentaries and pretend to be a UFO researcher, so he didn't have to work as a maintenance man at his parents' apartment complex out in California, because he doesn't know what real work is. Nope. Or real research. And I challenge this clown to a debate anytime, anywhere. But anyways, yeah, I digress about the Jeremy Corbell stuff. The electronic warfare capability is another act. We talked about the directed energy weapons stuff and supercavitation and that type of technology, which Congress is not being debriefed on, but also the electronic warfare side of this, and what they're able to do with resilience platforms, and being able to have drones and illusions of whatever they want to put in the sky, they could make it look like. There's a lot of technology that goes into this, that goes on with this. So that's also not being talked about. Oh yeah, so this is the one I want to show. Jim Goodall posted this back in February of 2016, guys, right? And if you zoom in right here, it says Site 4. Okay. Site 4. So it says a view looking down a row of B-2As at Air Force Plant 42. Site 4. The B-2A closest to the front of the line in AV5 is Spirit of Ohio. So imagine you're working at Northrop Grumman Aircraft out in 1988, and you're working at this place in Plant 42 called Site 4. I gotta download this. Bring this back over. I want to get this up in a second so we can zoom in. I want to show people that Site 4 thing, but you can. Anyone wants to know where to find that, I'll repost that to Twitter. Let me just see this. I want to zoom in on it so people can see. Site 4. And this is from a magazine article that was published back in the 1980s, 1988 or so, right? And apparently at Plant 42, where they were building all these spaceships, they had how many of these? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 5 on the other side. So 10, 9, 10, 11 of these UFOs just chilling in the hangar. These spaceships they're building at Site 4. Imagine you want to put out some disinformation to like really throw the enemy off about what's going on and what you're doing out there, man. I don't know. All I'm saying is that this Jim Goodall posted this, and I know he's a big, fan of Bob Lazar and old time friend of his. But I personally think, Jim's been close to a lot of this stuff. He's talked to a lot of the, these Lockheed Martin guys and stuff. And I wouldn't be surprised if, good old Bob wasn't, recruited as a, I don't know. I really don't know. I really don't think if Bob was recruited after just meeting a disinformation agent like John Lear, who spread disinformation about every conspiracy imaginable, crazy, theories that he's spouted over the years. I just don't see them hiring a guy like that to go work on the most top secret project in the world at the time. I see them hiring a guy like that to go bring him out to a fake hangar with a bunch of fake stuff and feed him a bunch of disinformation so that he can go blab his mouth to a guy like John Lear. So that, I don't know. I have my theories on all this Bob Lazar stuff, and I've done a lot of digging to find, well, Site 4. Imagine that there's another Site 4. I know there's another place at Tonopah called Site 4 because T.D. Barnes, the former director of Area 51 Special Operations, told me about Site 4 at Tonopah Test Range. And that's what he says is the building that does all the electronic TECR and electronic countermeasures. So basically at Site 4, they have all the intelligence that they get from Russia on their radar stations. So they build a mock Russian radar setup, and then they test ways to counter that radar, at Site 4. So it's a lot of classified stuff going on at Site 4 at Tonopah as well. So maybe this, maybe they use Site 4 because there's so many places that could be Site 4, dude, because the Bob Lazar stuff leads you. That's what gets all the big people from the mainstream to come down the rabbit hole. So that's like the catch-all net is Bob Lazar. It's really just like trying to lure some people in. So when they get past the Bob Lazar stuff, they start like realizing, no, it's like this is like kindergarten ufology and kindergarten of physics and classified programs. And then they start getting into you know, they graduate, from UFO high school, and then they go to college and they wind up here where we learn real shit. All right, so what is it? It said, LOL, damn, that gold kid does look like Jeremy's brother. Which kid? Jump on here, dude. I don't know. I want to know what you guys are talking about. Jump on the stream, man, with us. What's up, Architect Tom, and Bernie, Bernie number 2, and Weekend at Bernie's.
It is officially a Weekend at Bernie's.
Yes, it's officially. Get Jeremiah on here, dude. I want to know who's my brother. I want to see who my brother looks like. And one day I'm going to get my real brother on here so you guys can meet him. John, if you're watching, jump on.
Jeremiah, put the YouTube link.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. How do I capture this? I'm going to have to type this out unless you can.
I copied it.
Copy it into the private chat so I can click it as a link, because I'd have to bring this up on YouTube and then it starts playing. There we go.
Hey everyone, my name is Jason with Mount Baker Mining and Metals.
How to find gold? This dude looks like my brother. No.
Almost.
I can kind of see like a little bit of resemblance here. Let's see. Oh, if I can put them side to side here. I'd have to grow the goatee. Ears a little different. I'd have to like break my nose, because like my nose is a little skinnier in the middle. I have to like break it and get it really fat. And then I have to like just squint my eyes in a weird direction.
Hey, here's something you can throw back to him. There's a serial killer that when I saw him, I was like, oh my God, they caught Jeremiah.
Oh, I thought there was a serial killer that came up on that shit comes up on my feed too, like randomly, like I don't know, it just gets recommended to me by YouTube for some reason. And there's one guy.
Does it look just like Jeremiah though?
No, this
just
guy looked
like slightly older.
This guy looked like Hunter Biden. I was like, oh my God, it's Hunter. They found the bodies. We all knew.
Oh my God. That's so funny. I was like watching a movie with the girlfriend last night, and the main protagonist was like this rapist looking dude that looked just like Hunter Biden, especially after he got beat up. It looked like the picture straight out of his laptop.
Yeah. Yeah. You see those laptop videos, man. You'll never be the same.
Right? Like I'm scarred for life for watching them. They're effed up. I did not need to see his 8-inch something getting a foot rubbed by some Chinese lady of the night. Like that's just something that does not need to be burned into my head. But oh God. Anywho, I've got shared right now. This was a stream me and Jeremiah did a few days ago, where he was able to reproduce making monoatomics through my method, and I'll just play a quick clip of it here. But he successfully made monoatomic bismuth out of electrolysis of bismuth and bismuth on anode and cathode. Might be plasmoid. It's more likely crystalloid. You can crystallize metallic particle substrate.
Yeah. In a second, I'll move the camera so we can get a better visual of what's going on the anode side.
That I have been for years. It's good to verify that like someone else can do it too.
So on to why this is important. If you try to order some of these materials, they almost all come from overseas. And as we are well aware, there's plenty of conflict in the world, which means that if you needed this stuff and you only had the base metals and some basic electrolytes, there's a very real possibility in the foreseeable future that you won't be able to purchase these things on eBay or on Amazon. Or
Dead killer stare.
I don't know, Jeremiah, if you want to join in and give us a little update on what you've been able to do with the monoatomic bismuth that you have made, and if it's remained in the monoatomic state or if it's di or triatomic, if it oxidized at all.
The foam.
Well,
I thought Jeremiah
if
was
it
here
catches
for a
fire.
second because his voice on that video. I was just like,
yeah.
It doesn't. Well, actually, yeah. Look at that. See,
Oh,
that's
it's dry in the oven,
absolutely
he's
hydrogen
saying.
in there. And now we've dried it up, and it seems to be pretty well stuck to the surface. And scrape it off if we want. And there it is. So I've scraped a bit of it. Very white. So whatever is dropping out of suspension is going to have to be cleaned because it's not anywhere near that clean or pure as the foam on top, which is why I'm going to let this reaction run now. I'm going to try not to disturb it anymore because whatever's collecting on the top is a lot more cleaner than whatever's precipitating down at the bottom. And I do believe they have different properties.
Absolutely. They do. I believe you're correct in that.
But I won't be able to apply it to the gravitational disks until I find out exactly what they are.
Calistigo, for if you're going to consume it, I usually use a 3.5 volt battery or a couple of them in series to start up.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find
Pull
the
that
part
out.
where he shows. Yeah, I think right here that it actually nano coats itself.
So here we are getting a
confirms
different kind
another,
of reaction. You can see that our cathode side is really, really clean, but we've got a strange, I would say orangish precipitate that's now sticking to our anode side.
monatomic gold.
And he was also able to light the hydrogen coming off of the cathode side, confirming that it is making a decent amount
I don't know
of
if you can hear that, but
either
it's
atomic
making quite a bit of
hydrogen,
sound.
H4,
I'll
Brown's
get the mic real
gas,
close to that.
some sort of hydrogen plasmoid that was very combustible. And we were, I think,
Sodium
we were
hydroxide
using
is
2 or
oftentimes used
3
in
volts
water
in this.
electrolyzers
At
like
the
the
top
Joe
it was
cell.
5 volts.
So that's
I
a
can-
quite common material for this application, and we know we're getting a lot of HHO production.
Trying to listen to both
Most
of you guys.
fascinating,
Sorry.
I think, is really this. Let's take a close-up. You see how that bottom layer there, it's not just separated at the bottom of the cathode, or excuse me, at the bottom of the anode. It's not just separating just at the bottom of the anode, but we actually have this layer that's showing up right at the bottom of the anode. It hasn't even dropped to the bottom. It seems to be settling, resting right at that level, perfectly even with the anode, which is, again, particularly interesting.
Yo, Jeremy, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Um,
I wonder
So-
just how flammable that is.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeremiah's not here. This is just Jeremy.
Yeah. Alien scientist. I'm gonna ask you a question. Maybe a couple.
Not very.
Yeah, go for it, man. I'm listening. I'm all ears. I can hear you. I was waiting.
I couldn't hear you.
I'm being quietly listening.
It's all good, man. I'm not gonna poke fun or anything. I'm just curious if like if all the UFOs and the Tic Tacs are like government craft, military craft, why would they waste time building F-22 Raptors and F-35 Lightnings? Why wouldn't they just make everything so much more beyond anything that any adversaries could produce? Like why would they not do that? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's kind of like the B2 program, right? So the B2 during the B2 program, right? It went way over budget apparently, and they ended up they had this whole other
I'm glad
program.
you brought that point up. I was
The
gonna say
Aurora,
right?
and the Aurora. So this whole Aurora project was basically like they said that the official story now is that the Aurora was an excuse because the B2 went so over budget that they made this Aurora project up to say that we are building these more top secret aircraft to but I really think that what goes on is there's so much waste. Maybe there is that much waste. Maybe it is just government contract. And I go back and forth between those two theories because my friend Dan went and got a job for one of these big contractors, and he got to see it from the inside, and he's like, the amount of waste at these places is incredible.
Yeah.
It's like the parts aren't in; they just pay you to sit there and do nothing for your shift, and like. They've been all kinds of shortages because of what's going on in China recently. So I hear they can't like produce half of our stuff. We can't even produce now, and yeah, it's a huge crisis in a lot of the manufacturing here. But I think that there's a lot of that goes on where these projects secretly fund other research with that money, large portions of it, but there's also large portions that are wasted too. I think it's both. It's just
I think we can all agree that there's a lot of wasteful spending in the government, right?
Yeah, there's lots of waste, so that this you can't hide that. And I'm not arguing against that, but I don't think that accounts for all of it because it's just such large amounts of numbers that there's only so many yachts and cocaine and stripper parties that you can buy. Really, I mean, for all your, you can take everyone at Area 51 and buy that. I mean, they pretty much gave these guys like lobster dinners. I heard that the everyone who worked at Area 51 will tell you the food was absolutely amazing out there. They bought these guys. They brought the best of the best food and with the best chefs to cook for these guys and stuff. So they kept them really, really happy and really, content. So they would never, have any reason to defect. And they were all buddy with their buddies who were all, these all American boys that all vacation at the same lake and everything else. So. They were very careful in their selection process of who these guys were that had access to these top secret kind of programs and information. So bringing a guy like Lazar in there who drove a rocket car around Los Alamos and talked to newspapers and all this other stuff, it just doesn't fit with
What do you think the benefit though is of having like a disinformation of Lazar is on like the wider society? Like why even use him? Like is it to just divert attention? Like, and then if it is,
it's
as
just,
to what though?
If it's just perfect distraction, it's like, well, here's.
Do you think adversaries pay attention to it, or do you think just people who in the UFO community pay attention to it? You know what I mean?
Well, the Russians were the ones who eventually discovered element 115 and named it Moscovium, and they poured a ton of research into these super heavy elements
Right.
after that. So it almost looks like they got fooled by that.
Well, I'd say what's going on in Ukraine, they're not doing too hot, right? Like their military's not doing too well, but
Yeah, it's crazy what's going on over there, man. And it's the first war where we have just like all this fakery. So there's all this disinformation, and then there was a big issue with the Ukraine thing that I wanted to bring up, is this whole issue with these bio. I made a post on Twitter about, like, it's like, why do we have money to fund biolabs in Ukraine, but we don't have money to fund UAP research and all
And
this? Like,
why is Hunter Biden involved in it directly as well, right? Like,
well, what I see, this is the thing, is I posted this about a week ago, and this person was like, "Oh, this is confirmed Russian disinformation, and that you're promoting, lies that benefit Putin, and you ought to be ashamed of this post and yourself and all this stuff." From one of my followers on there. And I'm like, well, we're just going to wait on this one. Time will tell. And some guy was like, that's the most unscientific thing that you could ever say, is time will tell, and or something like that. Another guy said, and I'm just like, what are these people like on, and I'm just like, you just watch. I have a hunch about this one. I've had a hunch about other things. And when I have a hunch about one of these things, I'm usually right.
3 days later, the New York Times
New York Post, fucking everything, and then it's coming out. Yeah, it's coming out. It's coming out, dude. Like, this is the same thing they did with Hunter's laptop, and I was talking about that. I was like, they said this was Russian disinformation. I was like, there's no way these are deep fakes. These are legit videos from his laptop, dude. You know what I mean? These are like legit. And they were all. It was like telling everyone, don't look at this. This is disinformation. It was being taken down off the platforms and censored off all the platforms and stuff. And the whole time I'm like, this is legit, And people were saying, no, that you're spreading Russian disinformation. The same shit. Like, these trolls would show up every time I'd post it, and they'd be like, blah blah blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, you're QAnon. Why are you talking about Hunter's laptop? That's so QAnon. I was like, no, you created QAnon to like mix up all this fake conspiracy bullshit so they could hide the real stuff. Like, come on, we're not stupid. We know how your fucking propaganda and disinformation things work,
Right.
Seen it all in the past.
So do you know what's it is what's the dude's name? Lou Elizondo? Is he still part of To the Stars Academy, or did he dip out?
Yeah, so I think Lou left TTSA and has gone his separate ways. But apparently, I think Hal Puthoff is still heading up the scientific arm of TTSA. I mean, he was basically talks about his role at the ATIP program, being hired for a lot of the scientific side of that. And so I think he's still working with TTSA, I guess. I don't know, man. No one's interviewed Hal. And then I posted this thing that I thought was recent from him. And I thought it was from January 5th, but then somebody posted it and said it was, recycled, or it's actually from something older. That it was, but I don't know. I've seen some of this older stuff, but some of the stuff was newer, and I'm still watching it and going through it all. But and then there's a Q&A at the end, so I don't know when this is from, but this is a real interview that this guy did with Hal Puthoff.
Well, where was I missed the first part of your broadcast. Where was that site for that you were just talking about? Where the located
Plant 42. So there's one at there's a site 4 at Tonopah Test Range. Okay, and there's one at Plant 42, which is in out in California. I think that they're both in different parts. Is that in California? Is Tonopah? No, it's northern Nevada, I think. Or western, like part of Nevada. Tonopah is. So it's in they're two different places, Tonopah Test Range and Plant 42. And
It was called Site 4, or that was something
Site
else?
4, they're both called Site 4. And then, Bob Lazar said that Site 4 was at Papoose Lake. He said that that was where Site 4 was, this location at Papoose Lake. And I think he had heard rumors about Site 4. Or maybe they had mixed that information because there's a lot of classified places called Site 4.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a designation, is that if there's classified stuff, they name it Site 4. Maybe that's going to change now, because it's like you just know that, all right, well, where's Site 4? Site 4 is where the classified stuff goes on everywhere, because it's just the way that they hide it through obscurity, because it's like, well, which Site 4 are you talking about? And what goes on at Site 4? So it's just like, maybe Site 4 is just designated for where classified stuff goes on at every base.
Right. So I guess that's why I get hung up. Like, if it is indeed government craft, because I go back and forth on this stuff, honestly. But like, if it was indeed government craft manufactured, like, why wouldn't they just make all of their planes that sophisticated, right? Like, why even make just regular propulsion? I can't answer that question. So then I start thinking about, was it just all misinformation, and for who? Like, who are you trying to mislead? Adversaries? Or are they focused in on the UFO community and ATIP community, or are they just trying to steal trade secrets from the United States anyways, like China is, right? So
yeah, they took a bunch of. So this is another thing. Good point, Baker. Is that these people promoted and took people's money and donations on the promise that they were going to produce a flying saucer, and really not only bring this technology out of the shadows, but produce something with it.
Right. Yeah, that's what I remember.
So yes, that's a very good point. And it's like, oh, well, what were you thinking? What happened to that? Yes, it's a great question. So it's not a huge cover-up. It'd benefit their military capabilities. Yeah, well, absolutely. I think that it would also benefit our adversaries' military capabilities, which is why they don't talk about a lot of this stuff out there,
Like advanced research and stuff. They don't, publicly talk about it for obvious. I mean, for national security reasons, right? Obviously, they're not going on Fox News and Friends and talking about, hey, we're doing this and this and this for the future development, right?
No, they don't do that.
Right.
Never.
Right.
So what they do is they go on and they say that there's unidentified threats out there and that we need more funding for more advanced space platform. So what's going on is that everyone thinks that we're going to go to nuclear war and thermonuclear war, and I pointed out how we had that we went through a period, and then the H bombs, and then we built bigger and bigger bombs, and now we're at the point where we have lasers which could just wipe out everything through the earth, unstoppable, unblockable super weapons that people have no idea about. But
something else to consider too, as botched of a job has been going on between Ukraine and Russia, do you really think that they've then been maintaining those nukes that have to have a lot of maintenance in order to keep them working? Otherwise, they just turn out to be duds. I mean, it's really, really difficult to get a nuclear explosion. So it was something that Thunderfoot brought up, and I was like, yeah, that's actually kind of true, because the material that they're working with, the nose from like the Soviet era, are degrading, so they would have to constantly be reshaped and reformed. All the shape charged material would have to be kept up to date, or if it even remotely goes bad, so you have something going off with a little too fast or a little too slow of an explosion, you get a weak point and you just get a fizzle. Nothing happens, So I mean, I have a feeling he probably doesn't have a whole lot to work with, if anything. then again, it also dawned on me, maybe that's why he's doing such a terrible job there, is because they focused more on maintaining their nukes and not on their, maintaining their military. Like, send in the tanks. Isn't it muddy there? Crap.
Yeah.
How many tanks do you think we
Yeah.
lost? All of
You
them.
mean like when it comes to like nukes, like you're gonna roll the dice if this one's no longer working? So guess a number between 1 and 100. Anyone in the chat, 1 and 100. I'm gonna roll the dice and we're gonna see who gets nuked.
81.
Pass.
You can do 81. Bernard, what are you guessing, Ella? Barar.
21.
21. Tom, what's your wager?
I love this test. You got to do it 3 times.
I'm gonna go with 50. 51.
There you go. 51.
Oh my God. I cannot believe this. Oh my God. Never
51.
have I ever. No. I rolled 100. I rolled 100, dude.
Oh! Or is that 000?
It's 0 or 100. I don't know, man. It's like because it's 000. I think that's 100 because there's no other way it could be 100.
Is there a 1 though?
There is no 0. It's 100.
That's 100.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, it's those zeros are zeros if you get a number.
Yeah.
But if you get an aught though, then it becomes a 10 to add to the 0 to make 100.
How do we roll 100? I'm like, this is hundo sack. That's crazy, dude. That's some odds. When I'm talking about nukes, it said 100. Oh no, that's not a good sign, dude.
Well, maybe that's because somebody's going to give them a little help so they can get something started.
And Sparky was the first one. He said 99, and he said 98. Then he changed it to 99. He was the first one. He had like the premonition, man. He saw it. Actually, he commented before I even announced that we were doing a roll. When he saw it, he just saw like go to that cam and have the dice in my hand.
And you picked the best one though for statistics, man. 50 is basically right in that range where it's most likely to happen, And the high and the low is where basically it gets more and more difficult to get a hit on those with percentiles. Well, with 2 dice for percentiles.
Well, because these, I guess so.
That's why they have 100-sided dice. It's just people use percentile like you're using because they get tired of waiting for that die
55,
to stop rolling.
Right, it's 55 is right in the middle. It's the average. I guess if you did like mathematically, is 55 the most common number with to roll with this. I know I did. You can do it. I did it as a math project for 2 6-sided die. So if you have 2 6-sided die, obviously craps 7 is the most commonly rolled number. So you add the opposite sides of all the die. 1 and 6, of course, 5 and 2, and 3 and 4 all add up and make 7.
Yeah, you have three options for 7. You can get a 1 and a 6, 3 and a 4, 2 and a 5, but every other number you have less options. So it's the same way with the percentile. They keep getting less and less likely the further you get to the ends of the high and the low end. So that's why I said 100-sided die. Do you have one?
Well, I don't have the 100-sided die. No, I don't. That's why I rolled.
Have you seen them?
Die. I think that would actually be better odds of getting, actually be 1 in 100 odds of,
Have you seen a 100-sided die?
I believe it.
Yeah, I have.
It looks like a golf ball.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it.
It's like, just get tired of waiting.
I'm gonna order one. Just
It just keeps rolling.
So next time you say it's just a dice, just remember that not only does God play dice with the universe, he throws them where you can't see him.
He also cheats.
Yeah.
Oh man, did you see that Armored Skeptic video? Am I Satan or Jesus? Yes.
134-sided die. What shape is that, dude? What?
100-sided eye? I don't know, but it looks like a golf ball. Like the little dents that are on the golf ball, it looks like that.
Yeah.
What they do to try to slow them down so it won't roll forever is the inside is pitted, and they're like little, like, I think they use bismuth now, but I'm pretty sure when they first started putting them out, they were using little lead shot, so they'd fall around inside of it and try to basically hold it down. But even then, it still would roll forever, man. I had a 30-sided, and it was a nightmare to get to stop rolling. That was just a bunch of little, like 4-sided diamonds to form the whole thing.
You got your 3D printer cam on now?
Laser engraver.
Oh, so laser engraver.
That's the 15-watt blue laser.
I want to build his water jet.
Oh, well, I'm gonna try something a little unusual. I'm gonna basically put a container with water in it and fill it with salt, and then hook up an electrode to my target, and put another, put an electrode to the side or something, so that I can basically run AC into it. That way it's constantly pulling with, we're talking like AC of like, say, 1, 2, maybe 3 volts at most, because I don't want enough to actually cause chlorination or to sodium alkalizing effect on the material with the electricity. I want to use the laser compounded with it to get enough so I can control where it's cutting with the chlorine, and then use the sodium to clear the path, so that way it's never built up with a bunch of chloride metal that won't come out of the hole. So
I can't believe I rolled a hundo. That's still like freaking me out.
You need to hurry up and buy a lottery ticket, man. Before it wears off.
Then buy a lottery ticket.
I gotta go right now. In my Crown Royale. So,
my hat, it says, but it's a Crown Royal design, is, I believe, the comment.
Oh, cool. I got mine at Home Depot.
Nice. Do you mind if I share a little bit of our Science's sound with ominous beatboxing?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, where's the beat? You got the beatboxer dude coming? Travis isn't here. He went out, so he's not gonna jump on tonight. But I gotta work on my rap a little more. I haven't really worked on the lyrics anymore since that other day. So we took that stream down because that's classified. So
it's why when we listen to Ken,
I want us to all work together. So we all need to work together behind the scenes.
Is this foreshadowing something? I think. Is this
foreshadowing?
Coming to this? What comes next? Me beatboxing? Hang on. Let me do it for a little bit until you tell me, until you can yell at me and I can actually hear. Let's go. Yeah. Let's go.
Yes, let's all collaborate on an alien rap music project.
Like Pac-Man.
100%. And Ominous is down with co-hosting the Science of Sound every 2 weeks with us. So we shall make that into an epic series.
Heck yeah.
Hang on, let me change this shit.
Shit. All right, so alien science. Whoa, I took your stream out. Sorry, I didn't mean to knock you out.
Oh God, there's two of me.
So I want to show something too in a second. But did you hear about this? I think you're going to be super interested in this. Ready? Quantum entanglement in chemical reactions. Does it?
Oh my God! Yes, we're gonna prove that my monoatomic is quantum matter. Is that what you're hinting on?
Yes, my friend.
And that is a major part of my thesis. Is this monoatomic matter is both a fourth state of solid matter, or I guess just a fourth state of physical matter, and that it's plasma state. But since it's monoatomic, single atom, it's not entangled to another atom or particle. Thus, it's free for that quantum entangling or quantum matter properties, is what I've always theorized with it.
So this guy's created this classifier to determine if there's quantum entanglement going on in chemical reactions. And this was in 2019. And then sure enough, it was confirmed recently. And I got to find that article that, yes, in fact, quantum entanglement does occur, affect the chemistry of molecules and can influence chemical reactions through, electronic stimulation and other methods like I talked about, like especially with crystallization too, because it's like cymatic patterns. If you're like able to even vibrationally resonate things, you can get them to form, crystallize in certain ways. Oh, we got another dude advocate for UFO disclosure. Welcome.
Hey man, how's it going?
Hey man, what can we do for more UFO disclosure?
I don't know, man. Anything we can get is good with me. Whether that be them releasing things, or you figuring things out on your own, or with your team, I guess.
That's it. Is bringing more scientists, better engineers, and better scientists to the fray to figure it out and try different things, as many different things as possible, and share and collaborate in an open community for, a sharing of that knowledge and a greater understanding of that knowledge, and combining people who have strong math skills and strong other skills, and trying to get those people to teach those skills to the group, so that
yeah, absolutely, man.
we
I
can
kind of
grow.
wish, I know this is just me delivering an aside, but I'm seeing a lot more scientists collaborate with little UFO shows and stuff like that, and I wish I would see more of those guys come talk to you.
I know. I gotta get more out in that end of the community with get people on to talk about UFOs, or have I wish they'd get me on their shows just to talk about the science of this stuff too. Because these guys,
yeah, man.
It's just a shame that they had this senior scientist and with all this knowledge and experience, and that he barely does any interviews. And then when he does do an interview, it's like it's some I don't know, 1,000 subscribers this guy has.
Oh, is that Hal Puthoff?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just it's obviously like a friend of his or someone he knows, like personally, that got that got a hold of him, because like he doesn't respond to my emails and like do interviews. He doesn't really do that. And then I don't know, that's just like, that makes me question what's going on with disclosure, because it's just not enough focus and attention being paid to the scientific side of this topic, especially in this new UFO report, this classified UFO report. It should have been all science.
I have not seen it yet, but just off the top of your head, if you want to put on your speculation hat for a minute, do you think if he began working hand in hand with scientists, that might possibly lead him into a freedom handicapping conflict with his non-disclosure agreement?
Well, I'm not really sure what you mean by that.
I mean, could he get in trouble with his non-disclosure agreement?
So I think they all have done things that they've signed NDAs. Some of those NDAs I've been told are lifelong, so they can never disclose certain information. And that's certainly true for all these guys. Lou said that himself. He's like Captain, like, whoa, this guy's like knows everything but can't talk about anything.
Yeah.
And but
so you don't think there'd be anything in the science that would be that would make one of those guys any more hesitant than just talking with someone?
There's a lot in the science that he's been tongue-in-cheek about. Like you watch a lot of his presentations, and he like even his older stuff, like he's very like tongue-in-cheek about a lot of things. Like, so one example is he was explaining that there was a major breakthrough that happened in 1985.
Okay.
And but he wouldn't give any details on it. He said, I can't really talk about it or really like give any more details than that. But it was a major breakthrough that happened in 1985. And that was in an older presentation that, Hal Puthoff did.
Don't quite recall that one, but I may have forgotten it. I've tried to watch everything I could find that where he spoke on the video.
Right. This is an older one, man, and I forget where it was from, but he was talking about like right when his polarizable vacuums paper had come out, and he was talking about that stuff a little bit. And he had mentioned he just briefly mentions this, and this is like, I thought it was key because it's like something that he knew he wasn't supposed to talk about, but he wanted to talk about but couldn't. I think it was either this one or no, it wasn't that one. It was an older one, and this one right here, 1994. So this vacuum energy project, and he talks about like a breakthrough that happened 10 years earlier. He said about 10 years ago.
Jeez.
And so yeah, this one's an interesting one, and so go watch that. He talks about this model of the quantum vacuum, the model of the atom, with the spring model and this Casimir effect, and some of these other ideas.
I will definitely do that.
It's older. This is a very like before they were developed, but also more unrestricted, talking and access. But when he says that thing about the breakthrough that happened in 1984 and 1985, right? I gotta go back and go through it. Someone can timestamp that, put it in the chat on this video, so that we can get. I think it might be actually right around where I have this 400 seconds mark where I have it marked at. But go check it out, and
I absolutely will. Speaking of videos.
Wait. Let me finish my point.
Sorry.
Before you just hold on to that thought. Hold that thought for one moment. because I want to talk about what that breakthrough was.
Oh, okay.
30 years of squeezed light generation. I bring up this article because it's a great IOP Science article that gives a good review history of squeezed light.
Squeezed light.
The history of squeezed light, because this stuff is actually mentioned in. So Hal Puthoff, if you read in the literature, Hal Puthoff did these papers with Eric Davis.
Right.
And in Eric Davis's papers, the warp drive, Stargate portals, the Defense Intelligence Reference document that he wrote this whole paper for Air Force Intelligence, or DIA, Defense Intelligence. I find the paper by Eric Davis, but he talks about schemes for creating negative mass and negative energy for these warp drives and stuff. And the thing he talks about is using squeezed light to create negative mass, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when Hal Puthoff talks about that breakthrough that happened 10 years earlier in 1984, 1985, well, we look up the 30 years of squeezed light generation. This was, of course, published in 2016. So 30 years before that was 1984, 1985, when they first discovered squeezed light, when they first did it in the laboratory.
Wow.
So when we talk about these, we're talking about these materials that they're creating now where they can pump tons of light into them, right?
Okay.
And then you combine that with this squeezed light stuff. Bro, I'm telling you, this is how UFOs fucking work.
I actually believe it, yeah.
This is the real shit.
I think I actually found an article the other day that described how they transmit power in the craft itself rather than using wires.
But they can't really talk about it. It's like he talks around it. But you got to go back. You got to dig through like this stuff real hard to find. I mean, I wish I could talk to this dude and ask him the questions. He would be like, I can't talk about this. Like, it's the reason he doesn't give me an interview, man. Because I'm on this shit.
Yeah, I'll bet. Maybe
Try to be.
Maybe I'm being super optimistic, but recently I've started reading at least one scientific paper a day to kind of
which is also proportional to acceleration.
You like honestly, you'd have to read in order to catch up with all the scientific papers. You probably have to read like 10 a day,
right? Like literally 10 a day at least.
I was about to say that I'm such a dork sometimes that I'll start on my one paper and I won't stop for 2 or 3 hours. When I've been through 10 or 15.
Well, that's when you get to that level.
You're not alone.
You have to be able to like skim and take what you can get from it, and then, well, then there's also the people that have to work up to a lot of the levels because there's new stuff too. Like, and you'll have a lot of times there'll be new things in a paper. You'll be like, well, what the fuck is he doing there? How did he get from this mathematical, like math, a lot of the math and stuff too? Like.
Yeah, now of course I am skipping over the math, just trying to go off the description of the math and trust what it says. I'm very out of date with my math.
Quantitative analyses.
There's so much advanced mathematics too that we're not even taught, like the vortex-based mathematics, the 612 root digit system. There's lots.
Yeah, that sounds beyond my capability for sure.
That's why we have computers, man.
Yeah. But usually just, going by, I guess I don't know if I'm saying this right, but usually the math has kind of an abstract below it of what it's trying to tell you. And so I'll just go by that, You
don't need all math because a lot of it feel will do for you, and just like innate understanding of nature, because that will do a lot for it. It's done a lot for inventors and it's done a lot for humans. It's just trying to like.
Well, maybe that's something I need to do anyway, because I was good at math when I stopped going to school. I mean, when I graduated school, but
but math is beautiful.
It really is, and if you stay on top of it, I don't know. I either ace everything with math, or I don't know what I'm looking at. and there's no in between. Speaking of scientific papers and things of this nature, have you ever seen the Bob Lazar video where he's trying to, I guess I'll just describe it as invent a math that his UFO theory runs on?
No, which I mean, maybe.
I have seen that one where he's trying to explain how 115 worked or something, right?
But specifically, I'm talking about magnifying gravity A wave, which appears to be the strong nuclear force.
So this is the Lazar file. Which is it? Let me find it.
I believe I saved this video on my computer for you.
Gotta go to IMDb. I'm gonna look at all the Bob Lazar stuff.
So the source of this, if this is the correct one that I have, the source of this is like a 1989 VHS videotape.
It's not on IMDb. They don't have that older shit.
But I believe I have it here. I don't know about it. If there's an easy way to send this to you.
It's the
you
older
can
one.
post it in the private chat.
It's the one they charged $39.99 for back in the day. And Bob Lazar comes in. He pulls up in the
Corvette
with the MJ-12 plate on it. Right in the beginning.
I think that might be in here. But yeah, this is the one where he specifically gives out the math problems. I mean, simple as they are, and I had just never seen you tear into it.
Yeah, I got to. I want to go back over that stuff because we're gonna actually have. I'm gonna try to get Ricardo Storti back on. I want to dig back into that deeply. But I'm going over it with a fine-tooth comb now because Ricardo did that presentation with Bob Lazar on APEC a couple weeks ago, and I want to dig into that a lot more, and basically. Because a lot of that stuff came from Bob Lazar's book, which was published just 2019, like a couple years ago. It wasn't actually in the original videos, like the frequencies and all that other stuff. It wasn't actually in those original videos, and so it's the source issue of like, when did he say this, and could he have taken that information from other sources and got it elsewhere? Like, you're confirming all these claims that he made, but are those original claims, or are those new claims that he just made recently in the new book to sort of cover his ass? So like, there's a big discrepancy there that I have with a lot of Ricardo's. He's a real smart guy, man. That Delta Engineering Group page. Yeah, this is the one. So fast forward to about 17 minutes.
Do you have control of it? Okay, you guys have it.
Particle accelerator. We then bombard the target element with various atomic and subatomic particles. At this point, transmutation occurs, making the target element a different, heavier element. This element now has a higher atomic number, as the atomic number simply indicates the number of protons in the nucleus of the atom. So this is what I mean when I say their atomic number increases.
So stop right there.
What does their stability decreases mean? The length of...
So you got to bombard them with protons, not atomic and subatomic particles. So you have to just subatomic particles, specifically protons, because you want to add protons to the nucleus. So you got to bombard the nucleus with protons. So there's just like key little science that he's missing here. He said he knew this stuff because he worked as a technician at the Meson Physics facility on a particle accelerator there, and got some information, So he knew some stuff, but he's not a physicist, and he doesn't really know his shit. Like, I'm sorry. Like if people really know their shit, listen to him. They're just like, it's cringe,
Sure.
time which an element exists before it decays determines its stability. Atoms of some elements decay faster than
like,
atoms
learn
of other
that in
elements,
grade
so the
10.
faster an element decays, the more unstable that element is considered to be. When an atom decays, it releases or radiates subatomic particles and energy, which is the radiation that a Geiger counter detects. As you can see, this Geiger counter is detecting the radiation from this uranium, which literally means that the Geiger counter is sensing the subatomic particles which are being released or radiated as the uranium decays. Those elements in which nuclear radiation can be consistently detected are radioactive elements. These heavy elements, which we synthesize in particle accelerators, are of the radioactive variety, and they decay very rapidly. Since we're only able to make a few atoms of these elements, and because they decay so rapidly, we're not able to observe much about them. This is what I mean when I say their stability decreases. However, there are elements with higher atomic numbers which are stable, even though they don't occur naturally on Earth, and we can synthesize them in particle accelerators. These are the elements in the 114, 115 range, which don't appear on a periodic chart. Beyond element 115, the elements become unstable again, and in fact, element 116 decays in fractions of a second. This finally brings us to the power source. The power source is a reactor which uses this element 115 as its fuel. In this reactor, element 115 is used as a target and is bombarded with protons in a small particle accelerator. When a proton plugs into the nucleus of an atom of 115, it increases its atomic number and becomes an atom of element 116, which, remember, decays instantly. What element 116 releases as it decays, or what it radiates, is antimatter. What is antimatter? Antimatter is the exact counterpart of matter, which has a charge and a spin that is in the opposite of all matter. When combined with any matter in our universe, antimatter reacts and completely converts to energy. And remember, the rapid conversion of matter to energy is what we generally call an explosion. To demonstrate the explosive power of antimatter, let's pick a random area where an atomic bomb might explode. Oh, let's say Iraq. And for demonstration purposes, let's say an atomic bomb would explode, for instance, in, Baghdad. Well, if one of our older atomic bombs exploded in Baghdad, the area of total devastation, which is indicated by the red dot on the map, would be approximately 2 miles. This would be caused by a fission reaction in which less than 1% of the nuclear material is converted to energy. Most of you are familiar with the bombs that were dropped on Japan in World War II. This is the same bomb that was dropped on Nagasaki August 9, 1945. This is like
Pentagon pro-war propaganda. It's like, we're going to bomb Iraq.
Dr. Edward Teller, who's known as the father of the hydrogen bomb, figured out that a nuclear fusion bomb was possible. Fusion would release even more energy and cause an even bigger explosion from the same amount of nuclear material. Much to Dr. Teller's dismay, the Japanese surrendered, we never dropped the hydrogen bomb, and Dr. Teller's been in a bad mood ever since. But if a hydrogen bomb containing the same amount of nuclear material as the Nagasaki bomb were to explode in Baghdad, the area of total devastation would be approximately 20 miles. This would be caused by a nuclear fusion reaction, which again, less than 1% of the nuclear material actually converts to energy or explodes. The other 99% of the nuclear material on this type of bomb is dispersed, but is not involved in the actual nuclear fusion reaction. Now, if a bomb was made with the same amount of nuclear material as the Nagasaki bomb, and that material was antimatter, when that bomb exploded in Baghdad, the area of total devastation would include parts of Africa, Europe, and Asia, with the exact area of total devastation being very difficult to calculate. This would be caused by a total annihilation reaction, which is the complete conversion of matter to energy. 100% of the nuclear material on this bomb would explode or convert to energy. We currently have no practical way to harness antimatter into a bomb, and generally speaking, we can only isolate antimatter in a particle accelerator and store it for a short time. This demonstrates the enormous amount of power released when you totally convert matter to energy, which is what happens when antimatter and matter are combined. So back to our power source. Inside the reactor, element 115 is bombarded with a proton, which plugs into the nucleus of the 115 atom and becomes element 116, which immediately decays and releases or radiates small amounts of antimatter. The antimatter is released in a vacuum into a tuned tube, which keeps it from reacting with the matter that surrounds it. It is then directed towards a gaseous matter target at the end of the tube. The matter and antimatter collide and annihilate, totally converting to energy. The heat from this reaction is converted into electrical energy in a near 100% efficient thermoelectric generator. This is a device that converts heat directly into electrical energy. Many of our satellites and space probes use thermoelectric generators, but their efficiency is very, very low. All of these actions and reactions inside of the reactor are orchestrated.
100% efficient.
Yeah.
That defies everything we know about
thermodynamics.
It's like, come on, dude. Like,
yeah, he comments on that too, that it shouldn't be possible. Now, do you think that's a manufactured zinger? You know what I'm talking about? What a zinger is?
the only thing I've seen, like, right. So Daniel Sheen, not Danny Sheen, the lawyer guy, from Disclosure Project, but the other Danny Sheen that was on APEC. He did some interesting research into energy harvesters and recyclers. You know, these thermocouples and these other this thing called Maxwell's zombie and materials that might be able to do this. You know, through material science, topological, you know, semiconductors and topological insulators that could potentially do some of these things, but I don't know. And then his whole thing about it, you know, it's going to bombard it with protons, so you need element 115 for the proton source. So why don't they use perovskites, you know? Or there's a lot of other things they could use for a proton source, you know? If they're bombarding element this, and then this whole thing about it being stable, and that there's an island of stability around 114 and 115, and then the elements become, you know, unstable again.
Yeah.
So that whole thing was borrowed from that May 1989 article on super heavy elements, which is, you know, it's kind of, and it's not been proven. You know, we found an island of stability, but it's not stable. It's just a little more stable than things around it. Still decays in a couple milliseconds.
The closest evidence I know of that we have to there being an island of stability with certain forms of these atoms, you know, that certain isotopes that work out are called lanthanide stars. But this is still way controversial, you know. They think they see spectral lines in I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but I think I typed it in the chat, that like the secret chat, Pazilsky star.
Private
but
chat.
Basically they think, the private chat. They think they see evidence of 116 and other things like that. But that, you know, when I'm talking about this is, to me, this is totally separate from what Bob's talking about. Like, I think he would have just accidentally gotten this right, if indeed he is right about these things being able to exist. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Orchestrated perfectly like a tiny little ballet. And in this manner, the reactor provides an enormous amount of power. So back to our original question. What is the power source that provides the power required for this type of travel? The power source is a reactor which uses element 115 as a fuel and uses a total annihilation reaction to provide the heat which it converts to energy, making it a compact, lightweight, efficient onboard power source. I've got a couple of quick comments about element 115 for those of you who are interested. By virtue of the way it's used in the reactor, it depletes very slowly, and only 223 grams of 115, which is just under half a pound, can be utilized for a period of 20 to 30 years. Element 115's melting point is 1740 degrees Celsius. I need to state here that even though I had hands-on experience with element 115, I didn't melt any of it down, and I didn't use any of it for 20 to 30 years to see if it depleted. So we've learned how space-time is distorted by a gravitational field, we've learned how that gravitational field is generated, and we've also learned where you get the power to accomplish all of this. Now it's time to link all we've learned in our science lessons to the vehicle that utilizes all of this technology. And a few years ago, I never thought I'd hear myself say this, but that vehicle is a disk. which is generally referred to as a flying saucer. I had at least partial views of the 9 different disks out at Area S4, but the one I'm going to describe to you now is the one in which I not only saw 2 of the 3 interior levels, but I also saw it fully functional in flight. And no, unfortunately, I didn't get to go for a ride in it. This particular disc appeared to be in excellent condition, and because of its sleek appearance, I nicknamed it the Sport Model. The Sport Model is about 16 feet tall and 40 feet in diameter. The exterior skin of the disc is metal, which is the color of unpolished stainless steel. The Sport Model sits on its belly when it's not energized. As you can see, the hatch is located on the upper half of the disc with just the bottom portion of the door wrapping around the center lip of the disc. The interior level of the disc is divided into 3 levels. The lower level is where the 3 gravity amplifiers and amplifier guides are located. These are the things used to amplify and focus the gravity A wave that we learned about in our science lessons. The reactor is located directly above the 3 gravity amplifiers on the center level and is in fact centered between them. The reactor is similar to this half-scale model. The element 115 is machined into triangles like this and is then inserted into the reactor. This piece of element 115 is the source of the gravity A wave as well as the target that is bombarded with protons to release the antimatter, both of which we learned about in our science lessons.
It seems like you could tear that apart, and I think he talked
The center
about
level
the
of this
gravity
disc
wave
also
at
houses
10
the
minutes.
control consoles and seats, both of which were too small and too low to the floor to be functional for adult human beings. The walls of the center level are all divided into archways. At one point in time, when the disc was energized, one of the archways became transparent and you could see the area outside of it just as if the archway was a window. After the panel had been transparent for a while, a form of writing, which was unlike any alphabetic, scientific, or mathematical symbols I've ever seen, began to appear on the transparent archway. And I was never informed as to how all of this was achieved, not that any of that would have required alien technology. I was never given access to the upper level of the disc, so I can't enlighten you as to what the porthole-like areas are, other than I can assure you that they're not portholes. Now, before I go any further about the disc, I'm going to show you where and under what circumstances I saw it.
Now, before I go any further about
my
the
job in
disc,
this program was to be part of a back engineering team. Back engineering is the act of taking a finished product and tearing it apart to find out what makes it tick. The goal in this program was to see if the technology of the disc could be duplicated with Earth materials.
with Earth materials.
When I went to work, I was flown from McCarran Airport in Las Vegas to Area 51.
This research went on at Battelle.
Government base on the Nevada
They'd already
test
determined
site.
they couldn't
Area 51 is
possibly
located about
recreate
125
these
miles
materials.
north of Las Vegas, near the Groom Mountains and the Groom Dry Lake bed. From Area 51, I was bused to an even more highly secure facility located about 15 miles south of Area 51
Jeremy,
called
do you have any
S4.
specific thoughts
S4 is
about
situated at the base of the
gravity
Papoose
wave
Mountains
and
by the
strong
Papoose
nuclear
Dry
force
Lake
being
bed.
the same thing?
The airspace around S4 is restricted, and if any unwelcome aircraft strays into the outer
Hey.
sector, they radio the pilot and instruct him
You
or her
win
to
a new
leave.
car.
If that pilot continues and strays
I do.
Paid by
Hey.
Oprah Winfrey.
So, you
in the
actually
middle
win a
sector,
new car.
jets will be scrambled to escort the intruding
Here you go.
aircraft out.
Oh, sweet.
You got a new car. You've won
Nice.
a new car.
That's all I ever wanted since I was 16.
Sweet. Or a movie. We're gonna give away some movies. I got yeah, buddy.
Awesome.
We got surprises going on. I should get a bunch of these shades too. Oh, and these ones too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They light up. They have LEDs in them. I gotta charge it. Anyways, yeah. Alien shades, son. So, what else is on the agenda? You want to go back to Bob Lazar?
Well, if you're interested, I like that. I want to see you comment
Always
on
fun tearing
the part at 10 minutes into the
Lazar's
video
stories
about strong nuclear force being a form of gravity. Yeah.
Yeah, strong nuclear force as a form of gravity. That's
from nothing. A more accurate term might be to access and amplify a gravitational field. And this is what I mean when I use the term generate. To understand how gravity is generated or accessed and amplified, you must first know what gravity is. There are two main theories: the wave theory, which states that gravity is a wave, and the currently accepted theory of gravitons, which are alleged subatomic particles that perform as gravity, which is total nonsense. Well, gravity is a wave, and there are two specific different types of gravity: gravity A and gravity B. Gravity A works on a smaller micro scale, while gravity B works on a larger macro scale. We are familiar with gravity B. It is the big gravity wave that holds the Earth as well as the rest of the planets in orbit around the Sun, and holds the Moon as well as man-made satellites in orbit around the Earth. We are not familiar with gravity A. It is the small gravity wave, which is the major contributory force that holds together the mass that makes up all protons and neutrons. Gravity A is what is currently being labeled as the strong nuclear force in mainstream physics, and gravity A is the wave that you need to access and amplify to enable you to cause space-time distortion for interstellar travel. To keep them straight, just remember that gravity A works on an atomic scale, and gravity B is the big gravity wave that works on a stellar or planetary level. However, don't mistake the size of these waves.
So it's
for
a
their
wave,
strength,
but it's
because
not a
gravity
graviton.
is a
Total
much stronger force than
gravitons are total
gravity B.
nonsense.
You can momentarily break the gravity B field of the Earth simply by jumping in the air. So this is not an intense gravitational field. Locating gravity A is no problem because it is found in the nucleus of every atom of all matter here on Earth, and all matter anywhere else in our universe.
Overcome it.
However, accessing gravity A with the naturally occurring elements found on Earth is a big problem. Actually, I'm not aware of any way of accessing the gravity A wave using any Earth elements, whether naturally occurring or synthesized, and here's why. We've already learned that gravity A is the major force that holds together the mass that makes up protons and neutrons. This means the gravity A wave we are trying to access is virtually inaccessible, as it is located within matter, or at least within the matter that we have here on Earth. However, the Earth is not representative of all matter within our universe. The residual matter which remains after the creation of a solar system is totally dependent on the contributing factors which were present during the creation of the solar system. This is true whether you believe that the origin of the universe was an evolutionary event, or that a supreme being caused this event to happen. The two main factors which determine what residual matter remains after the creation of a solar system are the amount of electromagnetic energy and the amount of mass present during the solar system's creation. Our solar system has one star, which is our sun, but the majority of solar systems in our Milky Way galaxy are binary and multiple star systems. In fact, many single star systems have stars that are so large that our sun would appear to be a dwarf by comparison. Keeping all this in mind, it should be obvious that a large single star system, binary star system, or multiple star system would have had more of the prerequisite mass and electromagnetic energy present during their creation. This makes it possible for these systems to possess elements which are not native to the Earth. Scientists have long theorized that there are potential combinations of protons and neutrons which should provide stable elements with atomic numbers higher than any which appear in our periodic chart, though none of these heavy elements occur naturally on Earth. 88 of the first 92 elements on the periodic chart occur naturally on Earth. Some heavier elements do occur in trace amounts, but for the most part we synthesize these heavier elements in laboratories. Generally speaking, the stability of these synthesized heavy elements decreases as their atomic number increases, but experiments at the Lab for Heavy Ion Research in Germany have shown that this may only be true up to a certain point, as the half-life for element 109 is longer than that of element 108. The point is that our observations and theories are accurate. The fact is that heavier stable elements with higher atomic numbers which have more protons, neutrons, and electrons than any Earth elements do exist. However, up until this point in history, There has been no physical evidence to prove this, but now that proof is here. The most important attribute of these heavier stable elements is that the gravity A wave is so abundant that it actually extends past the perimeter of the atom. These heavier stable elements literally have their own gravity A field around them, in addition to the gravity B field that is native to all elements. No naturally occurring atoms on Earth have enough protons and neutrons for the cumulative gravity A wave to extend past the perimeter of the atom so you can access it. Even though the distance that the gravity A wave extends is infinitesimal, it is accessible, and it has amplitude, wavelength, and frequency just like any other wave in the electromagnetic spectrum. Once you can access the gravity A wave, you can amplify it just like we amplify any other electromagnetic wave. To demonstrate how a wave is amplified, we can use this oscilloscope, and as you can see, it graphically depicts the tone you hear as a wave. As we amplify the tone, you can see that the size or the amplitude of the wave increases, giving us a more powerful version of the same identical wave, and thus the tone sounds louder. In like manner, the gravity A wave is amplified and then focused on the desired destination to cause the space-time distortion required for space travel. This amplified gravity A wave is so powerful that the only naturally occurring source of gravity that could cause space-time to distort this much would be a black hole. This brings us back to our original question: how do you generate a gravitational field? You must have access to an element which is heavy enough for the gravity A wave to extend past the perimeter of the atom. Then you can access and amplify it for space-time distortion. To complete our 3 science lessons, the last question is, what is the power source for this type of travel? Well, for those of you with limited knowledge about power sources, I'm sure you can probably imagine the enormous amount of power required to cause a space-time distortion for this type of travel. After all, we're amplifying a wave that barely extends past the perimeter of an atom until it's large enough to distort vast amounts of space-time. For those of you with extensive knowledge about power sources, I'm sure it's probably even more puzzling as to how it's possible to have a compact, lightweight, onboard power source that can provide this much power. For everyone to understand that, I need to further explain a couple of things we briefly touched upon in the last question. If you remember, I said that for the most part, we synthesize or create heavier elements in accelerators, and their stability decreases as their atomic number increases. So what does this all mean? Well, we synthesize these heavier, unstable elements by using more stable elements as targets in a particle accelerator. We then bombard the target element with various atomic and subatomic particles. At this point, transmutation occurs, making the target element a different, heavier element. This element now has a higher atomic number, as the atomic number simply indicates the number of protons in the nucleus of the atom. So this is what I mean when I say their atomic number increases. What does their stability decreases mean? The length of time which an element exists before it decays determines its stability. Atoms of some elements decay faster than atoms of other elements, so the faster an element decays, the more unstable that element is considered to be. When an atom decays, it releases or radiates subatomic particles and energy, which is the radiation that a Geiger counter detects. As you can see, this Geiger counter is detecting the radiation from this uranium, which literally means that the Geiger counter is sensing the subatomic particles which are being released or radiated as the uranium decays. Those elements in which nuclear radiation can be consistently detected are radioactive elements. These heavy elements, which we synthesize in particle accelerators, are of the radioactive variety, and they decay very rapidly.
Now that's entertainment, man.
Since we're only able to make a few atoms of these elements, and because they decay so rapidly, we're not able to observe much about them. This is what I mean when I say their stability decreases. However, there are elements with higher atomic numbers which are stable, even though they don't occur naturally on Earth, and we can synthesize them in particle accelerators. These are the elements in the 114, 115.
That element 114, 115 range. Again, this all came from the May 1989 issue of Scientific American magazine, which I'm going to go ahead and pull up for you guys. Again, Why are we talking about this crap? We've been over this a million times. There's no actionable intelligence in any of the Lazar stuff. This is his detailed scientific disclosure. He said he could do a more comprehensive one in front of a panel of qualified technical, engineers and scientists if needed, but that never happened. And I wanted to talk about.
Hey, sorry. Thanks, Jeremy, for looking at that part, dude.
Ever seen this thing before?
No.
This is a piece of debris that was recovered, and a couple photographs of it exist, and I think it came off a Russian, some kind of Russian space satellite. But again, it's like a flexible kind of material, almost metal-like, but I don't know. I've never. I want more information on this. This was sent to me. Got like cells on it. Yeah, it's really interesting material.
Cool.
Maybe bullshit, but I always like pictures of UFO debris. These are the halls at Wright State University, man. I want to go there and check out the tunnel system.
That's at Wright Patterson?
It's right next to Wright Patterson. It was the old Wright Patterson land before they built the university there. So I'm thinking some of this. I'm thinking there's more about that UFO debris stuff going on. What do you think about this Kit Green? This keeps getting brought up. The Kit Green DRDs and some of this stuff that. So Kit Green worked with Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis as well, and he had done this study on the biological effects of UFOs. And what these propulsion systems, what they know about, the effects it might have on humans. So,
and there was that scientist who just examined a bunch of brains that, of, I guess, former personnel that had been exposed to UFOs and other things.
Yeah.
Oh, what is that guy's name? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that was an interesting study, man. So the guy that studied the brains of all those people, and Gary Nolan, I think it was
Gary
him.
Nolan, that's it. And he said in a lot of the experiencers, he found, I hope I'm saying this right, an area of ganglia where the neural density was 10 to 100 times greater than in normal people. And it's not a perfect quote, but I think that's what he was trying to get across.
Damaged pilots' brains. So, yeah, and the UFO encounters and stuff, the MRIs he got from these people and stuff. Yeah, interesting research that he's gotten a lot of skepticism and controversy, and I understand why he won't go on a channel like this. So I don't even ask him, but it's cool like talking to him behind the scenes every once in a while. I'll message him.
You think some of these guys just have the wrong idea about you?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And they're just not ready for like to dive all the way into like truth seeking that we do, and the level of like in the research and some of the things that I talk about. And I'm not afraid to talk about. I feel,
Yeah.
But it takes a person like me who's not afraid to put that stuff out there to make it a little bit safer for people like him, for them, So I think they respect what I do a little bit too.
I have noticed that that when one scientist or person in the sphere of science will take a hard look at something, a lot more of them feel comfortable coming out and talking about it.
So I try to like say, I'm like, well, we need to take cold fusion and some of these other subjects more seriously, you know. And when I first mentioned cold fusion to my professors at college, they're just like, that's debunked, right? That's like pseudoscience, right? That's, and it just like, all right, well, Gary Nolan's talking about these isotopes that he's finding in these samples of stuff that he's analyzing, yeah, I had the article up before because the CIA bragged in the years ago on Twitter that it was all these UFOs were us, and that it was basically saying that it was the CIA using special projects, using UFOs to cover for special projects by saying it was aliens, and they have a history of doing that. But
Sure.
These
they do.
But regardless, like, right, if the aliens are out there, which they probably are, mathematically probable, maybe they've crashed, maybe their debris has, like, from far away Star Wars, that floated through space and fucking crashed here, and we find pieces of melted meteorites, which could have been parts of spaceships before they went through re-entry or entry, because they didn't re-enter, they just entered. Right, so this whole thing with the isotopes, I swear that they're waveguides, and that it's quantum computing and spintronics that are going on, and that's the need for the isotopic ratios, and that's why they need to have these metals that are super pure, but then they altered like the spin states to create these individual waveguides.
Yeah, I think you gave us an introduction to Spintronics a year or two ago.
Yeah, we got to dig more into that because it's a fascinating field, and I want to get like I got to find out where there's more technical information, because there's got to be like tables of like, I want a table of all maybe we should make like how they have those organization periodic tables where it shows you like the size of the atoms or the charge of the atom, or they have all the different properties, expanded upon on these other periodic tables. We should have one for the Lamar procession and have the isotopic table. Because you ever seen the isotopic periodic table?
I have not.
I've seen briefly. What's really good I like using is Walter Russell's vortex-based periodic table as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. There's also that so the periodic table of the isotopes, and it shows you the breakdown, like different elements have one isotope, some of them have like a whole bunch of different ones, and
oh, that's breakdowns.
Cool. But it's
awesome.
This is it. This is the real one. So if you were to have the periodic table with all the isotopes in it, it would be like, boom.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot more puzzle pieces.
Yeah, I never knew much about isotopes and how one isotope could be totally stable and another one could be totally unstable until I started trying to find out about the truth of Bob Lazar's story for myself,
Yeah, a lot of them are just unstable. I mean, they exist, but they're just not like in a configuration that is useful or to do anything, with structure. Sure. In our geometric universe. So along this line are all like the stable like structures in black, I believe, right? Yeah, naturally abundant, right? So, and all these other ones are like, yeah, they don't occur really. So like,
wow, everything has so many more possibilities of not really working out.
This yellow's stable to beta decay, and that's like right on the cusp. So that's like your stability, where your stability would be. And this table of isotopes, I gotta view this file, info how. Interesting stuff. Yeah. So this whole geometric structure of stuff. So again, back to what Bob's saying too about ways to create gravity waves or negative mass, and I think squeezed light, you'd be able to create, gravity waves with it because they use squeezed light in LIGO.
That would be something to bring on Jason Verbelli to discuss more on. And I think you're onto something huge with that. Just my own readings of Isaac Newton's old works, and after I've gone through lots of his alchemy stuff, how much he connects it into light and sound in the supposed alchemical transmutations. It's just fascinating, and it really needs to have more people go over and reading it, because Isaac Newton's a staple in the physics community, yet there's this giant missing piece, and it's finally been released, but nobody's going over it or taking it serious yet. I've been able to basically rediscover and confirm different parts of alchemy and cold fusion through his work and writings.
Yeah, super interesting. Like, there's certain structures that occur chemically where light can be trapped to them in certain waves, like, and resonances can cause all kinds of things to happen inside different, material mediums. Just look at what can happen with on a plate with sound vibrations and a couple grains of rice, for example.
Okay.
Yeah, I like reading through this stuff, man, and then summarizing it for people, because not everyone has time to even dig through half of this shit. So
yeah, it's websites like these I've been getting stuck on every day, and then like leaving a few hours later than I was supposed to.
yeah, this classified UAP report, though, man, it's not on this level, bro. It's not on that level. It's just like very minimal information for Congress to like, okay.
Yeah, it's got everything redacted out. That was interesting.
Yeah, I know. I want the unredacted. Let me know when the unredacted report comes out, Mr. Greenwald.
Right, like what the heck happened to disclosure?
Someone's gonna leak it, dude. This ain't disclosure. This is censorship, and the worst kind. And
for real,
characteristics, including several in which the pilots, blah, 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 I don't know, I'm trying to guess what involving blah 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 blah. These observations could be a result of sensor errors, spoofing. So there they said, or observer misperception and require additional rigorous analysis. So boom, they admit spoofing. But they don't really talk about the technologies involved to really give a detailed report and assessment on that, and the range, the proximity of the range in which both those incidents occurred to where they're doing all the spoofing research, all the electronic countermeasures research that goes on at Camp Pendleton, and then all off the coast of Norfolk, Virginia, at that site right there, which I showed the radar towers. We found them when we did like the Google Earth analysis. It's like, this is right where they're seeing this stuff. Come on, people.
Yeah, and I know kind of the view you lean towards, Jeremy, and that's totally cool. I actually think I'm a little more convinced that they're extraterrestrials or extra dimensionals, but
I think that there are extra-dimensionals. There are extraterrestrials flying.
Oh, yeah.
But we wouldn't be able to capture them on film or radar. I mean, think about how advanced these things would be, and they'd leave traces and stuff. We might have some information on them, but all this whole approach is all about people aiming their phones at the sky, recording UFOs and posting that information. It's cool. It's opened up now, but it's all about, and I think science. It's all about aerospace intelligence collection. And
and I think electromagnetic spectra is going to be a big part of that.
as much as I diss John Greenwald, I'm glad that he gets this stuff and has a place for it, and that it's all, like it's, that he gets these documents and then he hosts them and keeps them available, because otherwise this shit just disappears from the internet, and you can't find it ever again. It's like you have to know someone who saved a copy of it somewhere. There's no like super database. But I do fault John Greenwald because I got in a big fight with him, and he shunned me and gave me the cold shoulder because I said, he made a bunch of posts on Twitter claiming that there's no evidence, or documentation that he's ever found for a 9/11, conspiracy or inside job or anything like that, and that he thinks that the 9/11 conspiracy, that stuff's ridiculous. And I said, I named 15 companies that were directly related to 9/11 that he should have all kinds of documents on. If he wants to claim that there's no documents for an inside job, that he should have all these companies and have documents on them, but he doesn't have those documents, and that he should file the FOIAs for them and get those documents before he claims that. And it started this whole big drama, and he's called me a 9/11 truther and an idiot and a conspiracy theorist and a nutcase and all this stuff, because I had that disagreement with him over that 9/11 stuff. I understand why it happens. It's a sensitive issue. It's a sensitive topic, and it doesn't really do him much good in his efforts for transparency with the government to accuse them of such heinous crimes, even though they've done far worse than, just simple, cold-blooded murder for oil and mineral wealth and natural resources in Afghanistan and everything that I believe that was all for and behind. It was predicted in the X-Files. Heck,
I forgot about that.
it was all in the X-Files in like May of 2001. Right before 9/11, and that lone gunman spinoff. I have it posted on my channel if you search for it, but search for X-Files 9/11 on my channel search. You can find videos that are shadow banned. You just got to go to the channel and do the search here. Don't use this search bar up here, because everything's censored out and you won't find anything you're really looking for. You have to go to the actual channel and then use this search bar right here.
Dude, I really appreciated that you talked about Physics and Reason the other day. That's a great channel.
Physics and Reason. That's John Cole. He's an engineer, a family friend, a guy I know personally, and was committed to proving popular mechanics and NIST and these other official organizations wrong. They were putting out misinformation and disinformation, and it was the same thing that you see going on with Hunter's laptop, that we saw go on with Hunter's laptop, where they said it was Russian misinformation, Russian disinformation. Same thing that we saw with these biolabs in the Ukraine, which I think that there's legit. We're funding all kinds of this stuff, and why wouldn't we be doing kinds of top secret crap in Ukraine? It's a hub and a hot spot for all kinds of. It's always been, child trap. It's like kind of this middle connecting land, which is why they want it for the oil pipelines and stuff. But it's also because it's strategically located in the between Africa, Europe, Soviet Union, and the Middle East. So it's kind of like this crossover place. But then you read about that whole the whole cult and the Khazars or whatever it's called. Have you done any research into that?
Khazarian Mafia.
Oh yeah.
Yes, sir.
Khazarian Mafia, and they're basically like the origins of the people that like child trafficking networks and all this crazy, criminal underground, all the drug cartels, like the trafficking, across like it all goes through here, pretty much. It's like it's like a hub or a hot spot for all this kinds of corruption and and stuff, which is why it attracted people like Hunter Biden and the Biden family. You know, the
Oh,
Biden,
not just them either. Pelosi and Romney. And,
and the Romney crime family, the Pelosi crime family. All those political crime families that have been running this country into the fucking ground for the past, how many decades has it been since they whacked JFK?
Generations, at least.
Yeah.
Our last real president.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on this stuff, man.
No, Alex Jones, dude. Alex Jones. I've called Alex Jones out. He was wrong about Sandy Hook.
Many things.
I think he's wrong about he was wrong about the Boston bombing. I did my own investigation of that, boots on the ground here, and proved Alex Jones wrong on his conspiracy theories. But this Ukraine biolabs conspiracy theory, they've already made a Wikipedia article about it, declaring it a conspiracy theory.
Like,
that's interesting because they also
China's confirmed it too. They've officially requested the U.S. ambassadors explain what the hell is going on.
The thing is, it's going to link to some Biden stuff, and then they're going to get linked to COVID, and I if it does, I think it could, man. I think that this whole coronavirus thing was a conspiracy myself. I think that it was linked to there's more to it being told than we know about. And if it originated at one of these labs in Ukraine and then went to Wuhan, China through some of these discrete networks, it might trace back to the Bidens who were in bed with Fauci and some of these other people, who,
let's just say it was really convenient for it to come out and cause the Great Reset.
The Great Reset for Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum. Yeah, there's a whole number of these individuals that, know how to use and plan world events to their advantage and orchestrate these types of things. And that whole Event 201.
Yes, I watched that.
Right. That's super. I was like, this is like important. And I'm like, I'm saving this just in case this disappears. And it hasn't disappeared, but it's not mentioned in the mainstream news. And it just talks about, oh yeah, we're going to illustrate pandemic preparedness and stuff. But it just talks about how they take control over the media and control over the whole consciousness of the people. This
it was a practice run.
Jeremy, I just sent you a link over Twitter. Jeremiah just sent it to me to get you to play it. He just uploaded it on. He remade my partner channel, Mike with Faraday Research, his magnesium. Why can't I think of the word now? Carbon or.
There are a lot. It's
graphite magnesium batteries, I believe it is. But he just did a remake of it, and they work. So Jeremiah's pretty stoked, and you have the link.
So people understand it. It's like it sounds like a lot of conspiracies come together, but it's really realistically, it's just there's a small group of powerful people. It's a small club, and you ain't in it, and they make the rules. They put their sons in positions of power and give them $1 million salaries to sit and smoke crack and get foot jobs. And you don't get that kind of special treatment. If you did that shit, you'd be in prison. And
it's nothing new either. It's always been there. Most people don't realize that, for instance, Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, right before they got nominated to be the Democratic candidates for the first time, they went to the Bilderberg meeting, and when they left the meeting, they became the nominees mere hours later. It's like they got approval there.
Yeah. Weird. Yeah, the World Economic Forum. So that's people don't understand about the CFR, the Trilateral Commission. So the Council on Foreign Relations, literally in their founding documents, it's all New World Order. It's basically like this is no holds barred. We're setting up an organization to take control of trade, intelligence, and organize, basically all the control systems and bureaucracies and, of the world, and control it through economic relations.
Yep.
And basically this is so key because it relates to 9/11 with all the AIG stuff that I talked about. AIG was this international investment group who had a lot of they were an insurance giant inside. They had offices in the World Trade Center, but they also insured a lot of the offices from the World Trade Center. But and a lot of people say, "Oh, the AIG wasn't involved in it." They lost so much money on 9/11 through all the insurance things, but that's not true because they did a lot of these reinsurance scams where they actually these reinsurance companies took a lot of the hit for that, and because they resold the insurance through reinsurance policies. And if you follow the money on this, everyone talks about Larry Silverstein, but no one talks about Jeffrey and Maurice Greenberg of AIG. And AIG is a super interesting organization. It was founded by this guy named Cornelius Vander Star. And he worked, basically, there's this whole interesting story I found about, just doing some research on him. There was this article from the story of them in China in the U.S. So basically they were an insurance giant that started in China, and it talks about there's this article that they wrote about the secret insurance agent men. Yes, by Mark Fritz and the secret insurance agent men in the Los Angeles Times. This is go watch this or go listen to this and read this article. These are the print scans of the article, this Internet Archive. So you can go read the article, The Secret Insurance Agent Men. And this is so key because as people think of spies, they think of, James Bond or, they don't think of insurance agent, clerks. But these insurance agents had all the paperwork for, they knew which factories to burn. They knew which ships to target. They knew which, and it talks about all that in the article. That's a direct quote from the article. But it's so true that this insurance companies are insurance itself is a conspiracy. It's anyone who knows anything about insurance is it's just dirty business, and they're conniving, dirty, conspiratorial types of people involved in insurance anyway. So no surprise that these were the guys who, basically sold out the countries that they were supposedly serving with these financial insurance companies.
I really felt like this is the stuff that was the closest to ever getting them caught, to having the truth come out. The plethora of circumstantial evidence of such volume and magnitude, large economic transactions taking place immediately before the disaster.
Yeah, so that happened not only with 9/11, but it also happened with the pandemic.
Absolutely, it did. Yep.
Yes. So
we had guys logging into message boards telling us that something was about to happen and to buy stock in these medical companies. It was hilarious. I guess they really were working at those places and knew what was going to happen.
Well, that's a good argument, right? Because what we're seeing in Ukraine is like a lot of 1980s and 1990s, like old, like it's like almost like vintage retired. It's like they sent in all their.
They used their hypersonic Kinzel missile the other day for the first time.
So now they're busting out the real guns. So yeah, so interesting. I gotta dig into this
And that
more.
was the one they hit.
And I've seen a lot of other stuff with the drone. You know, so they're implementing some other new strategies too with drone warfare and also the photography, because there's on the other side they have the drones that are filming these things and filming certain events, and then you know, they have the that it's cold and the Russian tanks have to run to keep warm, and then the infrared targets them and blow them all up. And
yeah, they had some success with the Turkish backer drones, but apparently they shot down 29 out of 30 of them now, so they're running out. But
they even have a song for it, Bayraktar.
What I've found disgusting is the amount of like Telegram videos I'll see it put up by the Ukrainian citizens, and it was in the first days of it, and it was of these like the fascist factions of the Ukraine forces, and just like how the criminals they released from jails, they emptied the jails and gave these people weapons, and it was those guys that were using these tanks, running over civilian cars, murdering civilians trying to escape, and then they blamed it all on the Russians. But it's like, I literally saw these videos days before they came out in the media claiming it was Russian, posted by Ukrainians saying it was the Ukrainians doing these atrocities themselves. So the fog of war is very, very thick.
Yeah, there's a lot of fog of war, and there's a lot of media manipulation and misinformation and disinformation, and then it's just like you can't even believe it until it's been, and even when it's been verified, it's like it might come out later, like this.
Right. And like I hope those 20 or 50 former analysis of the different alphabet agencies that claimed Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinfo, now that it's confirmed that it's not and it's real, why they best be getting
why should we believe what they say about anything? Because they're I don't know,
they should be held accountable.
I bet you these are some of the same guys who were sitting there telling Joe Biden and other high-level administration officials that Afghanistan was going to hold at least for 2 weeks, if not longer. I bet you.
Did you see that old footage too? I gotta play this. Hold up. Thank you for reminding me that's key, because I shared this the other day, and I got the trolls attacked me for it, and I was like, because it's a good one, dude. Let me find this. It's an old Joe Biden speech. Oh God, where is it, dude? I hope it didn't get taken down. There it is. Yes. All right, we're gonna listen to this. You ready?
I'm ready.
Big difference to the American people. The truth about what it makes a big difference how we end this war, and it makes a big difference to tell the American people the truth about what our options are in ending this war. If tomorrow the order goes out from I'm President of the United States, I issue an order: end the war today. Begin to withdraw all American troops. It will take a year to get the American troops out. Do you hear me now? That's the truth. It will take a year to get them physically out. Now, if you leave all the equipment behind, you might be able to do it in 7 months. And you leave those billions of dollars of weapons behind, I promise they're going to be used against your grandchild and mine someday. It makes a big difference how we end this war. And it makes a big...
Yeah, so he knew. The fuck?
Can you please play the clip of him saying, "I have the largest voting fraud measures ever set up in history"?
Oh my God, yes.
Dude, how about today? What was the thing going on with Biden?
Oh, he told the 82nd Airborne they were about to see what it was like for people to stand in front of tanks in Ukraine.
In Poland. He was saying, telling the 82nd Airborne unit they're only, I think, 50 kilometers or miles from the border with Ukraine, and he was telling them they're going to see everything front and center right away if they're going in.
I mean,
he eats
yeah.
pizza with them in Poland. They were all like laughing. There was some controversy and like a bunch of pictures going around the internet. Have you seen them?
I haven't seen them yet.
Hold up, I gotta bring this
He's
up.
eating pizza. Pizzagate.
It's like the new fucking Pizzagate, man. All right, here it is. Ready?
Oh, let's see.
And they're all staring at him, and apparently, like, the joke was that it was the jalapeno pizza, and it was like super hot, and they had him get it, and they're all staring at him, and his mouth was burning from eating it, and they were all like, it was a big joke, but
That's perfect.
he's just like oblivious to it. He's oblivious. All the soldiers set him up or something, and like they're all just laughing at him.
And of course, there's a Hispanic guy right there, maybe. So he's thinking, what are you telling me here, Joe? You know, because all the pizza toppings mean something.
Oh man, I don't know the whole story of this, but
oh yeah, it's actually somewhat real, Jeremy. I saw a guy get arrested by the FBI on Twitter that was using the pizza code words. And I mean, the FBI did have them listed on their website at one point. I think they probably still do.
Yeah, I did see it on what you're talking about, the pedo words or whatnot on the actual FBI.gov website.
Look, he's burning. Look at it. See, he's like, I need some water.
His diet.
He's hot. They're laughing. They're like, oh, God, you know.
Look at the guy up front. That's so funny. He just smiling so hard, trying not to laugh.
Look at the disgust in these people's face. They're just like looking at him. Like he's like this. I swear this dude's like contemplating.
This psychopath gonna send us to our deaths? Like
should I kill him now or just wait for him to kill me? I swear, like the fucking look on these people's face. Sour. Oh, it's terrible.
You know how furious they have to be, while they're over there, defending the country, while at the same time
he's gonna have a stroke, and they're gonna put Kamala Harris in charge, and then it's gonna be World War III the next day.
You know what I mean? They're out there protecting our country, and at the same time they know that 3 to 4 million illegals have already come in since he took office, and it's accelerating. You know. That's just
yeah. I don't know, man. Have you seen the come out? Like I have no faith in our leadership at all, dude. After seeing some of the Kamala Harris Ukraine talk, like the Ukraine speech, dude, it was like
I saw it, bro. Oh my gosh. At one point, she said that Ukraine was part of NATO, and she just whenever she tried to explain something. I mean, it was already on a not a very intelligent level, but she took it down to like she was talking to fifth graders or something.
Or the press conference of her in Poland with the Polish prime minister, and the reporter asked her about refugees or something, and she just breaks out laughing like cynically.
Yes.
Looks at the president and was like, after laughing for like a good 45 seconds or something, while everyone's like looking at her like, what the fuck? People are dying. And she's like, ha ha ha, well, a friend in need is a friend indeed.
Yeah, man.
You evil.
I don't know how they're gonna have to like coach her better, man. She's just not ready for that role. Like if Biden kicks the bucket, like if he has a stroke in the next 6 months, they take him out, or like they just decide that he can't, like if he deteriorates any further, they're just gonna, I don't know. Like, can you imagine this woman being placed as the president and her pretending to play president? It's like she's an actress playing president on TV.
Hey, I'm sure the president of Ukraine is an actual actor, Zelensky. Like,
oh yeah, I have the GIF.
Ronald Reagan. A lot of people say the best president in their lifetime. People that weren't there for Kennedy.
Also acting many years before he ran.
Yeah, Reagan, total actor.
But, Reagan had experience as governor of California before he took office.
Oh, don't even, Jeremy. Don't even. All right, get on here, man. Let's get political. Come on, let's share this. We got more people watching now that we're getting political, even though it's
Well,
like,
since we already said political, I think we all know how we have all heard the stories of how Kamala Harris got political promotions. I don't think I have to go into it, but they seem to be true.
Almost sounds like you're itching to go back on Tim Pool's show again.
I got to. I should.
That was a great show.
We should start our own. We should go on and I should get Ian and just have my own show with Ian permanently.
I think that was where I first heard of you, man. Was on the Tim Pool show.
It'd be funny watching you try to get him to talk about anything but graphene.
Yeah, for real. That is too true. But did you? I would hope you got a big bump from that show.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they did, man. It was definitely huge. Those guys helped me out a lot, and they gave me some good advice. They told me to stop talking about, some of the conspiracy stuff so much, but I didn't listen to that. I'm like, I'm going to talk about whatever I want. And, the research I did is the research I did. It's like, I'm not going to just, not talk about it because pretend it doesn't exist, because it does.
That's your flavor, man. And I really appreciate it. I was already really on board with you just due to my own conspiracy research. Interestingly, I started off like your friend Greenwald, who got really mad at another friend because they were talking about how 9/11 was a conspiracy.
Yeah.
Instead of having a personal argument where me and my friend stopped talking, I told him I was going to debunk his ridiculous 9/11 story. And as soon as I pulled back the covers, I was in there, man, and they're just obvious thing after obvious thing presented itself, and I tried to make them not true, but they just were. And I was actually happy to apologize to my friend later.
Well, I had not a lot of people apologize to me and just say, like, look, man, I'm sorry, you're braver than me. I don't even want to talk about this. Like, I don't even, like.
That's an interesting point, because I had an emotional reaction to it, man. Like, it destroyed my faith, like my patriotism. Not that I'm not patriotic anymore.
I know, man, but after 9/11, I was like flag waving. I was like all like, fuck Saddam Hussein, like we're gonna nuke the whole. Like, I was like Bob Lazar. Let's say we fucking drop an atomic bomb and it's on Baghdad.
Yeah, I remember, man. We were over there doing the right thing, brother.
Right. I was all for it. I was like, yo, this needs to go down. Like, these guys got to pay, dude. They took down the towers. I didn't even know about Tower 7. If I'd known about Tower 7, I've been like,
right.
Like, thing is, like, we had watched it all go down. We were all like, waiting around. Is anything else going to happen? And we weren't sure what was going to happen. I thought like the Russians were going to nuke us or something was going to. I was like ready. I was ready for Red Dawn, to unfold right then and there.
Yes. Yes. All my friends were calling me. Pat, what do we do, man? Do you know where to go?
Yeah. Right. Remember that movie Red Dawn, where the kids friggin' all grew up and they have to fight the Russian invasion on the homeland.
That was like my favorite movie when I was a kid, man.
Heck yeah. Movie was
I used to daydream that and hope that the Russian paratroopers would come in and liberate me from my
high school, right? You're like, fuck high school. We're going to war. Like, get some fucking guns.
Yep. Oh yeah, man. But letting go of what I believed about 9/11 and the faith I had in certain parts of the government and the story that they had, and then embracing the knowledge that they either had a part in or just let it happen, and that thousands of my fellow Americans died, man, and that so many of my friends were permanently injured and killed.
Yeah, dude, I knew a lot of people that went over there and
in the wars thereafter, man.
Like some of them lived, but some of them got fucked up or didn't make it home. So
and it broke my heart.
It's like, damn it, like, how could a bunch of these rich assholes just do this to people after, like, and get and how can they sleep at night? And Oh, they sleep at night very well because they're psychopaths, and that their brain doesn't work that way. All they see is what's in front of them and the numbers on paper at Halliburton and stock going up, and
Yeah,
they don't
man.
see like the bigger picture of the world.
But yeah, it is so hard for for people to let go of all that. And
Oh, dude, they want to fight me. I had like I was out there
Yeah.
holding a sign. I had some military dude come up to me and rip it in half. Like, go
Right.
home. Just get out of my sight before I fucking kill you. I was like, all right, man.
Yeah, his subconscious, realizes that if he were to have to admit all of that, I mean, you hear my voice get shaky, like I almost want to cry when I remember it. I mean, it's traumatic. And
Yeah.
it.
Well, that was it was like I was in the mall one time, and like this recruiter came up to me and was like handing me a military card, and like my hand just started shaking like that, like crazy. He's like, "What's going on with you, man? Why are your nerves are shot? Like, why are you shaking like that?" He's like, "Dude, I don't even want to tell you. Like, if I told you like what I know, like you wouldn't like you'd be, be tearing off your uniform and and ripping up that whole stack of cards, bro. Like,
You're not wrong, man.
You have no idea what I know." People that are in control of this fucking world and the plague, they release real viruses on people. And they put the gain of function research because they built it to die out because it was a test run. They built it to fucking go to Omicron and then fucking die out.
And God only knows what's going to be the long-term consequences of
the
these
vaccines.
hoax. Yeah.
Fucking all the people that are gonna have myocarditis and all the fucking health things from God knows what, dude. Like I was warned about this, and people want to know the best source of information because there's so much disinformation. You don't know who to follow when it comes to this stuff. Joe Rogan had some good guests on. That those guys. Brett Weinstein's Dark Horse podcast.
Oh, but they got the answer to solve all these problems. This new programmable digital currency the Federal Reserve is going to be putting out where they can tell people when they can and can't buy something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The vaccine passport. And the fucking...
Their Ponzi scheme has ran its course as long as it possibly go, and they got to start the next one.
How about that the vaccine passport was a conspiracy theory for like months? Like it was like, oh, that's just they would never do that. They're not gonna have, it's not gonna be like Nazi Germany, your papers please. And then sure enough,
I'll say which of the conspiracy theories was it when it came true that people finally went, oh God, okay, so there's a set amount of time between conspiracy theory and oh shit, they were right.
Yeah, it was running at about 6 months. I calculated for a while.
That was it, man. People were saying that.
I was very blessed that I had a family who has been watching me do my investigations. And
how about all this stuff came out like, oh, we can do ivermectin and some of these other things. They're like, oh, it's a horse dewormer.
Oh God, that
and boom and this and all that and like. So they took all these alternative treatments off the market that were successful in a majority of cases. They've been proven now, like in back-to-back medical studies since then that weren't funded by these big pharma companies who were pushing fucking shots and injections on people with
religious fervor,
unsafe, untested, and completely unliable vaccines. So if you get fucking complications or your heart fucking stops, all these athletes fucking falling over and dying,
how many
you can't sue the vaccine manufacturer, and they're blaming it on global warming and some of these news articles and stuff. It's just like
or weed being legalized.
Yeah, weed being legalized.
It's like, weed has never been available before they legalized it. So that's why they all suddenly started getting sick. It wasn't something else that was never available that suddenly was given to everybody, was it?
That guy from the Foo Fighters, man. Right now they're saying he had heroin and all these other drugs in his system, dude.
Well, that's more believable than all these fucking 23 to 25-year-old athletes that are basically succumbing to heart problems.
A career rock musician dying of a drug overdose. Yeah, totally more believable than, a completely healthy friggin' soccer player,
Yeah.
Just suddenly dropping dead, yeah. And in droves, right in front of people. Or, miss, and I've been triple vaxxed and blah, blah, blah. Whoa.
I was so blessed to have my family believe me about that stuff, and not take it.
None of my family believed me. I'm like, yo, like if I swear to God, if my parents friggin' die in the next 5 years because they took the vaccine, because thinking that they would be protected, thinking they were old and vulnerable to this, more vulnerable to this than normal people, and that, it was a pretty rough virus. It was,
It was, yeah.
Not a fucking fun time. I had it. Lived
we
through
had
it.
a chick across the street had severe asthma and a bunch of other problems that went into the hospital. Was clear when she went in. Then after being in there for 3 days, suddenly she came down with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And she was about as sickly as someone could get, and for all the people we know around here, and she still got over it. So that's why nobody around here got vaccinated for shit. They were like, if she can get over it, any of us can get over it. The only 2 people I know of that have died from it were way past their time. Like, they were talking about the one person, they were talking about amputating limbs because of the severe diabetes for the last 4 years and had been on dialysis. And it's the thing, they didn't die from it. They were so sick and in so much pain, they were just like, pull the plug, please, just let me go.
Wow.
I don't want to go through another dialysis. I don't want to go through any of these things. Just let me go.
I just had a family member pass that same way. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though. Nobody else that's been even, not healthy, just kind of mildly sickly, they've all gotten over it. And the one person that I know that has been going on and on about the the injection keeps saying prions disease, folded proteins, prions disease. I'm like, maybe, but at least don't be listening to this nonsense. Like, people are saying, oh, there's graphene, blah blah blah, and it's like, so you discovered in the vaccines that you investigated at the lab, that you investigate the graphene stuff you're talking about that you make. So there's no chance it could have been cross-contaminated. It's like, that's a real good way to basically throw disinfo and throw everybody off the trail. And then, after everybody looks into it, then they're like, well, I'm not listening to anyone else anymore because they've all been kooks because that one guy,
I'm actually unfamiliar with the graphene theories.
Yeah, and the nanoparticles. There was a guy on my show saying that they were going to put nanoparticles in the swabs they're putting in people's noses. I was like, that's totally testable and traceable. I'm telling them, unless they put it in like 1 in like 20, maybe, I don't know. Like,
I was wondering.
No, there's a German scientist. There's a German scientist that his whole research firm was doing research on graphene development. Methods of developing graphene, like graphene nanotubes and all this other stuff. And he said that he found that stuff in the viruses. It's like, you're testing it at the same lab that you test all your samples for the stuff that you're making, that you're saying you're finding in that. Come on, man. And of course he died too. So that threw the extra weight on it for a lot of the people around him. Like, oh, he wouldn't be dead if the blah, blah, blah. It's like, the damage you were talking about this stuff does to people, he might have actually got that stuff in his system 3 years ago when they first started developing it, and it finally did its job. Finally sliced its way through enough of heart muscle matter, and ended up basically causing heart failure, because that's what he died from, was heart failure.
Yeah, well, causing organ, dude. When I had it, like, like this dude in the chat said he just feels like he just got over it. And he just had COVID. Like, did it feel like your organs were eating themselves? Like, it feels like your organs are like dying inside your body. It's like it's not like any virus that I've ever had, or it's totally.
Dude, it felt like a cold to me. I got it way back when it first started coming around.
I lost my taste. The loss of the taste and the smell, dude. Like, it's just
Look,
not normal, dude.
I'll
It's
say
just,
a lot of people are not getting it, man. There are a lot of
I have not
substances
had it.
that you buy at the store that, because of the processing they go through and the materials that they're made out of, they're perfect viral sample kits that will deliver something from the last person to touch it at the factory when it was made right to your mouth. And gummy vitamins are one of the main ones that I see now. The other thing is foundation makeup. A lot of it is made out of bentonite clay and oils, which protect the virus from drying out, and they protect it from being damaged for long periods of time. Like, they don't even have a timeline on bentonite clay based viral sample kits.
All right. Now, you say you didn't get sick badly at all. You don't have to answer this question if you don't want to.
I
But,
did. I got pretty sick, man.
Yeah.
I was sick for 3 days. Normally, I get over a flu in less than 24 hours. So, I mean, it was bad for me, but compared to what everybody else gets, it wasn't really that big of a deal.
I was going to ask
both
each
times
of you what your blood type was, because there did seem to be some.
It took me about 2 weeks to fully get over it, too, Jesse, when I had it. Yeah. I was fatigued. I was like just
I was
tired.
gonna say, I
Man.
was fatigued the extra day or two after that for those first 3 days, which was kind of odd because I don't normally like go through this. It was like a cycle of, you feel like you got over it, and then by the afternoon you start feeling sick again. Is that it? After you were officially supposedly over it, like no more fever or anything like
tired.
that?
I wouldn't really feel sick. I just would be tired, like lost energy. Yeah. It was like motivation.
Well, that's how I classify feeling sick. Like, without actually being sick, if I start feeling really fatigued and all I want to do is just sleep, it's like, yeah, I'm still not over whatever this was. So.
Yeah, I don't know how much I trust the tests either, because I was like, I would be negative and then positive, and just like they were all over the place from my experience.
All the
I had to get an antigen test
because we had I had all my kids, and we'd give like all of them a test, and 2 of them would test positive, 1 would test negative, and it would just be like different. And then we'd give them another one, it would just be negative. It would be they were just unreliable. It was just random,
Yeah.
It seemed like.
Well, I mean, you aren't talking about something that's between 250 and 300 nanometers in size. That's smaller than all visible light spectrum. So.
Yeah, so type O blood is associated with much less severe infections. I don't know if anybody has that.
I know I had it because of fucking. Oh yeah, the type O blood. I've heard that too.
Yeah.
Negative or positive though, or is that? Are they saying they're finding even amounts on both?
Yeah, I suppose it's either.
Because I think negative is the one that's the universal donor, and positive they can only accept blood from their O negative and O positive.
Yeah,
their own blood type and the O negative. That's it. So.
Right.
Type O negative. All right, 3 hours, man. We're talking about blood types and COVID, man. All right, let's crazy.
Can I share Jeremiah's video here?
Oh yeah. Why don't you post it? This in the private chat.
I was gonna say, you're talking about politics. Did you get inspired by Ricky Gervais or something? I want to be canceled.
Yeah. Getting into it. Just cancel me right up.
I think it's muted.
What we're looking at is a 10 millimeter by 100 millimeter carbon rod, stock off Amazon, multi-purposed. Heat shrink around the ends keeps the magnesium and the paper towel that are underneath it in place. And this is just a strip wound around the rod. So let's just get a bit of water on here and see what happens. Holy shit. Well, 1 drop of water instantly hitting 1.8 volts. I can say I genuinely was not expecting that.
Interesting.
Let's let that stabilize for a second. Hopefully I haven't got a blown fuse. Let's find out. Yeah, I totally have a blown fuse in this meter. Oh, so much for a voltage check.
You see the rain generators?
Those terminals out.
Look basically like a solar panel, but rain falling on it generates electricity.
Recovery is not instant, but recovery is.
They're made mostly out of. Most of the people are making them with Teflon tape, aluminum tape, and
paper towel as a
urethane.
Magnesium strip that's been cleaned ahead of time with 99% isopropyl alcohol. It's surprising to see this much potential between the magnesium strip and the carbon rod.
They say 99%.
In the center of the carbon rod, there's a small hole drilled in, and a piece of 12-gauge solid copper wire, slightly deformed with the pliers, physically press fit into that. I actually have to hammer that piece in so I know it's in good electrical contact. There may be a secondary part to this reaction taking place between the copper anode and the carbon rod itself. So that's something else to consider. We're back up to 1.356, 1.357. So I'll go ahead and let this sit here for a while while I watch another stream, and I'll come back to it after it's had a chance to stabilize. According to Mike, these things can go for days if they're not under load, and I guess the load only evaporates the water out, so it doesn't actually cause too much except for some oxidization perhaps in the magnesium strip. Tests are soon to follow. Thank you for watching.
Where the heck do we get 99% ISO? I know I can get like 91%, but where do you get the 99%, Jeremiah?
Sorry, I'm just going to play a video just to give that context of what Jeremiah will be producing. This is my partner channel, Mike. I think you've met him a couple times. Does Faraday research on YouTube. But this is what Jeremiah was doing a build of.
I'll agree with. And I think
all good. We figured it out. That's the best part.
Or, no, we're not.
You're like, hey, we got to figure it out, and we figured it out.
Where are we?
Batteries there for a sec, and I'll check it out on YouTube and make sure we're good.
All right.
They're not the only.
All right. Yeah, so I've been working on Laser Saber's carbon graphite magnesium battery. So anyways, make a long story short, my father's actually a lab technician by trade. He doesn't do it anymore. He's pretty much retired, but he says I got to be careful with the magnesium. So I found a manufacturer that's not far from where I live, and I talked to one of the chemists regarding the magnesium and its stability. So they use it in welding. It can be extremely flammable. So that kind of got me a little bit nervous. But it is extremely active when it comes to making power. So the second you activate it with water, which they actually don't recommend you do, this thing generates a crap load of power. And get this, hold on to your hat, 1 amp.
Damn!
1 amp.
Out of those?
Yes. They're the size of my finger. Look.
I see it, man. That's freaking nuts.
1 amp out of 5 cells. So each cell, if it's just like all disconnected, I'm doing one by one, is about anywhere from 1.5 to 1.6 volts each at 200 to 250 milliamps each. It blew my mind. I couldn't freaking believe what I was looking at. So to test it, I got this little capacitor bank. It's 90 farad. I hooked it up to it, and I put a diode. So all the power be directed right into this. And about 2 minutes later, from basically dead, this light started pulsating. So this thing's charging supercaps.
Hey, Mike, do you have a FLIR camera?
A FLIR camera?
Yeah, to see the temperatures of those cells.
Oh, it's funny you mentioned that. These cells, for some odd reason, they start
15 range, which don't
actually getting cool. And I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, we got a chemical reaction between water, magnesium, and the transfer of electron protons between the graphite. In all theory, it should be heating up.
What kind of water are you using?
Regular tap water. That's it. Nothing in it. Straight tap water.
You might want to try using some,
distilled.
Even like
distilled water, or
lab, like
deionized.
You're deionized.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. But just the fact that I'm using
do a temperature test, like get a couple cells in line and do temperature comparisons.
Yeah. Now I also noticed it started cooling down more when I put it under a heavy load. Like when I started charging the supercap, that's when I noticed a big temperature change. It was really cooling off.
Let me ask you a straightforward question. What happens if you dead short them?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Do you have a scale?
Like a weight scale?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one somewhere. I think my Noah's got it.
Yeah, what kind of resolution does it have?
I'll have to check. Why, you want me to weigh him?
You need like a chemist.
Well, what I really want to find out is, stick them on a scale.
Yeah.
And then short them and see if you get a change. I'm extremely curious to see what happens electrodynamically with that.
Yeah. I'll have to try that.
I would be extremely interested in the results. By the way, that is fantastic output from those cells. So, are you able to go into a bit of detail on what's inside of those things? I mean, do you have raw parts sitting around that you might be able to show a bit of?
I don't have any raw parts. Basically, it's magnesium strip. It's 5 millimeters wide by 2 millimeters thick. 95.8% magnesium. And carbon graphite rod. You can order them pretty much anywhere, Amazon, AliExpress, whatever you want. And even the purity actually doesn't have to be the greatest.
What's
And
the dielectric between the graphite rod and the magnesium?
Okay, the dielectric, this is the kicker. Paper towel.
And you put water on them.
Yep.
How the hell does that work? How can that even work?
Exactly. Exactly. Anybody have any suggestions? I'm dead serious. When I fired it up the first time, I'm like, you gotta be freaking kidding me.
I've got an extraordinarily accurate scale. And
yeah, I have a pretty accurate one myself. It's digital. I think it goes to 4 decimal place. So I'll have to do those.
Like that, I mean.
Yeah, that was really weird. Cooling. I thought it would heat up for sure.
The energy's got to come from somewhere. And it sure the hell isn't coming out of the paper towel or the water.
Well, it has to have some kind of reaction with the water and the magnesium. That's what I'm suspecting. So
I was listening to join the station. I do have an idea for you, Mike, with that, and try wrapping wax paper as your next layer around it, and then a layer of aluminum around that, and then a layer of wrapped copper coil around that on those next.
So basically like a Stubblefield coil system.
Yes, sir. And so this is another base that was, I believe, a mix. Oops.
Oh God, it's like 4 a.m., dude. I need to
the color.
Yeah, right. Like that one.
Fair enough, brother. Fair enough. I just looked at the time, and no doubt it is.
Yeah, well, this has been going on 3 hours. I didn't know. I was just like, damn it.
That was a very good
Fun,
stream.
dude. I'm glad we're all up.
Maybe do
late.
another one tomorrow evening, a little early on or something.
Yeah,
Hey guys,
yeah.
Thank you so much for talking to someone who's not as intelligent as you are, and it was very interesting, man. I hope I didn't.
No worries, man.
Hope I didn't dumb up your stream too bad.
And this is the point. It's like to
there's never
engage
a
with everyone in the community, and you know, it's we try to bridge that gap because it gives something for everyone. You know, because we don't want to limit our audience too. We want to also make sure that people out there that don't get something, if we go too far ahead, we can kind of like backpedal and be like, all right, well, let's kind of maybe explain what we're talking about a little bit more, so on that level you can kind of like get a little bit of an understanding.
I'm working hard to get there, man. Studying every day.
Some of the stuff we don't even understand, so we're still learning too. We're trying to figure that out. So like I got a couple different ideas going on in my head about what could be creating that voltage in that little experiment that he showed, so it's like he said,
learning every day.
And thanks for your patience with the Bob Lazar clip. I felt like there was going to be something embarrassing there for Bob. It's something that was a clear, more so than what he's already put out, but something that was clearly wrong with that gravity A wave theory. But I guess you poked so many holes in his theory that it's really no more wrong than the rest of it.
I don't know. I want to really. We're gonna dig into that whole Ricardo presentation, the story, the Ricardo story did, and really dig into those numbers and where they originally came from. Because you watched, that was his whole. That was like the original, like where he talked about the gravity A wave and the B wave, but he never gives frequency. You watch the whole thing, he never gives a frequency. Like I know I've watched it before and he never did. Like I would have taken note of like technical details like that. You know what I mean? I would have been like, that would have stood right out to me. So I know I've gone through all this stuff already. And then when Ricardo was like, oh, he gave this frequency, I was like, where did he give that?
Whoa.
Like
Interesting.
kind of like took me. So I got to go and quiz him for that. And then we got to go through and look through the literature now too. Because I told him, have you done a thorough search of the literature for that frequency and anything that talks about this? Because, I guarantee you we're going to find something published between, 1989 and 2019 when he published his book, that has reference to that frequency in it, and that's, if it's, I don't know, we have to look this up. It's going to take a little bit more research and review of the literature and whatnot. So,
and everyone out there that wants to help and dig in, by all means.
Yes, it's always helpful when someone's like, "Hey, I found this." It's like, "Oh, you saved me hours and hours and hours."
Anthony, I think your YouTube's still on.
All right, that's all right. I'm gonna be
just to answer a quick question. This is monoatomic copper and zinc in this jar.
Oh, okay.
Anthony,
all right, guys. Y'all have a great night.
I'll say the thing Jordan the technician made, they really should look into that the triboelectric rain generator, because water is not conductive. If you've got pure water on that, it is dipolar, and I think what might be going on is the magnesium and the carbon may be constantly converting, the magnesium may be converting it into an electret effect, where all the positive and negative ions are lying in one direction, and then the carbon draining it pulls that voltage out of it constantly.
He
by
left. I forgot to ask
deconstructing the
him if
electret.
he had a channel he wanted to promote. Where can people find your channel, Crypto Alchemist? They look that up.
Yeah, I posted it in the private chat. It's the video of us making the monoatomic bismuth, as well as Mike making the batteries there. It's the most recent YouTube I posted there, but that's my channel and the video that we've been playing a couple times throughout this.
I posted it. People can go there. Check out Bernie's channel. Check out that video that was just playing right there in the link. guys, thanks for watching, and we'll dig into all this more. I want to run these experiments some more and figure out where that voltage and that energy is coming from exactly. We're going to figure out those names of those scientists that worked for that in that Pentacle memorandum, find their CVs, get some papers on them, and we're going to dig into this whole Bob Lazar thing a little bit, thoroughly, now that it's been brought back up by Ricardo Storti. And Ricardo Storti is no slouch of he's a real smart guy. Delta Group Engineering, guys, look up his website. I mean, there's some serious stuff on his website, and these books, Quinta Essentia. Check out this stuff. I mean, this guy's he's done his homework, and he's done some really interesting research and lots of good stuff there. So definitely go check out Ricardo's other work, and we'll be following up on the literature and what we find on this gravity wave stuff with Bob Lazar. All right, thanks and take care.